My name is Frank. My job here this morning is very simple. I was asked to explain to those of you who are here but may not know why you're here, the reason we are here this morning. But before we get to that, of course, I think it's appropriate that we all put our hands together for the Bridgeport Housing Authority for wisely putting together this wonderful program this morning. Without further ado, we will now invite the chair of the Board of Commissioners of the Bridgeport Housing Authority, Dulcie Nieves, to offer her remarks. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to bring this down. I'm short. It's great to see that this place is full today. And I'd like to greet all of you and say good morning, that you're here on this chilly day. It's good to see you. As a chairperson of the Board of Commissioners, we are pleased to be able to sponsor the Jobs and Contracting Opportunities Forum. This forum not only provides contractors with an opportunity to take advantage of the contracting opportunities provided by the Housing Authority and the City of Bridgeport, along with providing contractors with an opportunity to network and to getting an understanding about how to access these contracting opportunities. The forum also provides women-owned, minority-owned, and Section 3 businesses with important information on the authority's new efforts to increase minority and women and Section 3 participation in the dozens of contracting opportunities provided by the authority. Since June, the authority has adopted a new MBE-WBE Section 3 policy that provides for preference points for these businesses in the selection of contractors. These new policies will be discussed in depth later today by my staff. In addition to adopting new policies to increase participation by minority, women, and Section 3 businesses, the authority is also in the process of establishing a revolving loan program for Section 3 and resident-owned businesses. This program will help to provide startup capital and working capital for new businesses that will enable them to get access to funds that they need to be able to work with authority and city-funded construction work. The authority has provided technical assistance to several resident businesses to help them get started. We realize that the best way to promote community development is by increasing assets in our communities. Promoting resident-owned businesses is one way to help to increase wealth in our communities. To further aid these resident-owned businesses, the authority will issue at least 2 bids in the upcoming year that will be available only to the businesses. Again, I am happy that we are able to host this event today. We hope that you will find it helpful and informative. Thank you.
Now, this is how the program is going to go this morning. Like I said, if the mayor steps in, we would interrupt it briefly. However, we will have panel and 3 panels this morning. The first one will be the panel that has already taken their seats here. We will start first, not by any special order, but because of their schedule. First with CIC Shop Derby Companies, which is Rocco Camera. When they come up to the podium and give the presentation, we would allow, I think, 5 to 10 minutes of questions and answers. There are pencils on your tables with some notebooks. Please, notepads. Take down any questions you have. If you do not feel like asking the question, pass it on to me or to any one of us, and we will ask the question for you. But before we bring Mr. Camara up here, I think we need to give a hand of applause to Vase Management that planned this thing. Of course, including breakfast and lunch is very important in this economic era. So thank you very much, Vase Management. Let's give Vase a big hand of applause. And now we invite Mr. Rocco Camara, please.
Hi, can everybody hear me fine? In the back? Okay. My name is Rocco Camara. I work for Shop Derby Insurance Companies. We're a full-service agency. I've been in the business for about 22 years, the last 18 working with contractors. all types of artisans, plumbing, electrician, sheetrocking, painting, carpentry, residential GCs, commercial GCs, both small and large. I've been with V for a few years now, kind of came in and met with her, and she invited me in to be as somewhat of a consultant and to help some of the smaller contractors with their insurance needs and with their bonding. The two most important aspects as far as insurance goes for the subs working for the GCs are what your limits are and what the GC is requiring. It pays to have your insurance agent as well as your attorney look at the contracts to make sure your limits on your policies are equal to what they want. If they're not, you're gonna run into a problem, whether or not it's, trying to raise the limits with the insurance company saying we can't do this. So it's good to do a little investigative work, call your insurance agent and say, hey, this is what I'm bidding on, these are the requirements, can we do this? That's your first goal. The second thing is that there's been a lot of question regarding workers' compensation. Workers' compensation is, people think it's not mandatory if you're a sole proprietor. That's true in some respect, and that's if you're doing work privately. You don't have to carry it if you were doing work for a homeowner or a private contractor. But if you're doing work for municipality or you're doing work for a GC, they can require you to carry it even though you're a sole proprietor. In that case, you do have to take a policy out. You can't choose to exclude yourself, but you still need to show that you have workers' compensation because that's part of the requirement of the job. General liability, most contractors or GCs are looking for $1 million per occurrence, or $2 million aggregate. Some may look for an umbrella policy, which you may need to look to as well. Some of you may have the umbrella policy already, some of you may not. Some of the GCs may ask for a higher limit than you currently have. Talk to your agent, get a price on it, so that way you could build that into your cost of your bid and you're not stuck getting into your profit by paying for the extra insurance that now costs you because of the requirement. Additional insurance for the GCs, that's a given. A lot of your policies for your artisans will automatically give blanket additional insured. Some GCs, the larger ones, may want to be listed. If they do want to be listed on the policy and won't accept the blanket insurance endorsement, that may be a charge from the insurance company. That's pretty much a blanket as far as they go. It's usually maybe $100 or $150 to actually physically name the GC on the policy. If not, and they're willing to accept the blanket additional insured endorsement, then there's no charge at all, and that's fine. Bonding. Bonding is become very it's become very difficult over the last 4 years, considering what the state has been of our economy, with the surety companies and with the banks. The surety companies are now looking for belts, suspenders, everything tied up nice and tight. They want to see good financials, both personal and business. My suggestion, and V, I think, is working with somebody, is to have a good construction accountant, so an accountant that actually understands what you need to do to get your company's books in order so you can apply for a bond line, and also personally as well. There are some companies out there that we represent that will do smaller bonds, up to anything over 100,000. It's become standard. Any job under 100,000 working for a municipality doesn't require a bond. But anything over $100,000, they do require a bond. There are companies out there that will do, you don't have to go for a full bond line, which carries you out, and you pretty much have to jump through a lot of paperwork in order to get it. A simple application, they could do up to a bond up to $100,000. There's other companies that will do them up to $250,000, and yet there's other companies that will do them to $500,000 for a single bond job. Those are options. As you do more of those jobs, if you're going to get into the bonding and you're going to do more of those jobs, a few of those bonds for a year or two, those kind of jobs, those limits will help you build good relationship with the surety that you're using. So when you say, okay, look, I want to go start doing $1 million job or start doing anything over $500,000, the surety's going to know you, and that's where they're going to be comfortable with. And that's what the relationship is. A lot of it is based on financial, but a lot of it is based on relationship with the surety as well. In closing, my suggestion is to look at the contracts, talk to your agent, let him look at the insurance requirements to make sure you're in line with what the GCs and the developers want. Talk to your attorney and talk to your accountant. Thank you. I think he said there's no questions. I think she said there's no questions. Yeah, I think that's what she said. Okay?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Camara. Now, we would go on to the next speaker. That would be People's Bank and Mr. Patrick Lauren.
Good morning, all. Yesterday, V gave me a call and said, come on by and talk to you and tell you a little bit about what financings are available to small businesses. So I thought I'd talk about some traditional sources of financing and also some non-traditional sources of financing. I'm Pat Laurent. I work for People's Bank. I manage the government guarantee lending department. And I'm proud to say that we consistently are in the top rankings in SBA loans. We were #1 in 504 loans last year. And in Connecticut, I think we ranked #6 and 7As and #2 in 504s. And what those are I should initially talk about traditional financing is bank financing. You know, you're looking for a loan, you go to a bank, and they ask you for all the traditional things of, you know, your past years of financial statements. And most businesses, in terms of startups or young businesses, a bank is going to ask you not only your ability to pay back, but also can you collateralize the loan. And in terms of startups or young businesses, that's where where you will have challenges to try to collateralize your loans. I know my previous speaker talked about bonding, and one of the issues with bonding is that the bond has an irrevocable nature, meaning that if you default on it, the bank pays. And those types of loans are typically fully collateralized. So that's where you would look to something like the Small Business Administration to help you, if you don't have that type of collateral, to guarantee the loan. Types of loans in terms of SBA loans, the primary loan or guarantee program is called the 7A program. It guarantees loans up to 75%, and on lines of credits, it guarantees loans up to 50%. And if you think about, you know, most businesses are going to look for a line of credit. Lines of credits, how do you determine the type of line of credit that you might need? Traditionally, you look at 3 to 4 months of operating expenses. If you think about your business and think about the expenses that you'll incur, you usually take a look at about anywhere between 4 to 6 months of operating expenses. That's the type of line of credit that you would need. And as I said, traditional financing, most banks are going to look for you to collateralize your loan. And if you don't have the adequate collateral to do that, and that will be in terms of receivables, inventory, then you would look to ask the bank to consider an SBA guarantee to mitigate that risk that you don't have adequate collateral to collateralize your loan. So there's the primary program is called the SBA Express for lines of credits. It guarantees loans up to 50%. The 7A program is for term loans. It guarantees loans from anywhere between 75 to 85%. And those, like I say, those programs are, if you don't, like I say, if you don't have the traditional, if you look at your balance sheet and if it doesn't support the loan, that's where you want to ask the bank to consider an SBA guarantee for you to, so that they would consider your loan. Non-traditional type of financing are, is SBA, but you would look at maybe the Connecticut Development Authority. They have guarantee programs as well. The Department of Economic Development, Community Development has a program, and you can go directly to them. They have an excellent website that describes their program, their loan programs. It's anywhere between $10,000 to $300,000 for, it's called a Small Business Express program. And what I would tell you is that the rate on that is 4%. It's, again, you just you call them, apply with them. It is an excellent program. I'll say that there is a long waiting list for that. It's excellent terms, but I would say be prepared to have a complete financial package, which would include 3 years of financial statements, your personal statements. Take a look at your your credit report. Make sure you know all the issues on your credit report, before the bank or the state of Connecticut would ask you when you apply for these types of loans. Other non-traditional types of financing are the U.S. Department of Energy, the USDA, Department of Agriculture. An interesting one is through the Bureau of Indian Affairs has a guarantee program. I'd also look at some of the UI has a loan assistance program. An interesting one was about a year and a half ago, they, throughout the major cities, Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, they had a program where they were giving up to $1,000 to minority-owned businesses, and all you had to do was operate within that the city proper. So I would look into your utilities companies. They have lending programs as well. They certainly have programs that would help you make your business more efficient. Certainly if you're, let's say, a retailer, I know there are a number of small businesses that took advantage of those assistance programs, whereas they'll come in, for instance, if you're a retailer, they'll come in and evaluate your business, take a look at how you can more efficiently, for instance, change your lighting. I know for some retailers, it saved them, maybe 10, 15% on their bills. So I would look into those non-traditional types of financing sources. In terms of traditional sources, in terms of banking, as I said, the three things that a bank are going to look at: one is obviously your ability to pay back. Two, your ability to secure the loan. And three, fairly important, obviously, is your wherewithal to make the business proposal that you are proposing happen. And that's in a way of experience. I always recommend that when you walk into a bank, not only have the package, but also have a resume. Explain what your experience are, what do you bring to the table. I would close there, and I don't know if we have time for questions. I'd love to take some questions if people have any questions in terms of, we're going to do it at the end? Okay, all right. So those are the traditional sources of financing and the non-traditional sources of financing. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to questions later on.
Thank you, Patrick. We are moving on very smoothly. The next topic will be coming from the Small and Minority Business Resources of City of Bridgeport, and that would be Mr. Ezekiel Santiago. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Morning. I see a lot of familiar faces here, people that we've worked with in the past, but I see a lot of new faces, so I hope this information is helpful. My name is Ezekiel Santiago. I work for the City of Bridgeport in the Small and Minority Business Resource Office. I work with Deborah Cavanis and Carla Gonzalez. And together, what we do, we basically work to ensure that that women-owned companies and minority-owned companies in the City of Bridgeport are aware of various resources that are available to them. For those who are not aware, the City of Bridgeport has a city ordinance. It's a law at the municipal level, which basically requires that all contracts that are awarded, if not to a woman-owned or minority-owned business, then 30% of that contract is to be subcontracted to a certified woman-owned and minority-owned business. And I stress certified. It's very important. So basically, when a contract is awarded, they have to either show that they are certified as such, or they have to give us the names of the subcontractors who they have chosen to fulfill that requirement. Sometimes contractors will come in and they'll have that in place already, but a lot of times that's not the case. So what they'll do is they'll actually ask us, can you assist us in trying to find some quality contractors that can help us meet these goals? So that's part of what we do in the office. We try to ensure that that is done. And one way that we do so is by gathering information from local contractors. Carla, if Carla's here, if you could stand up for 1 second. Carla Gonzalez is here. She works with me in the office. And what we do is, when you come down to the office, we register your business, we do a business assessment, and we put your information on a database that we upload to the city website. We refer everyone who is looking for assistance to this database. So it's extremely important, if you haven't done so already, to come down to our office so we can register you. So that way your name's on that list that we provide to the contractors. It's very important that you do that. If anybody would like, they can reach out to Carla later on in the day, and we can set up an appointment, or you can give her your information. We'll reach out to you so we can set up an appointment so you can come to the office and do so. It doesn't take too long. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. While you're there, we register you with BidSync, which is the company that we utilize to send out bid notifications electronically. Basically, they'll ask you general information, how to contact you, what services your company provides, what you want to be notified on. So what happens is, when we put out a bid, you'll receive an email from BidSync, basically stating the City of Bridgeport is looking for a bid, respondents to a bid for these services. When you basically log into the website, you get more detailed information on exactly what you need to qualify and how to respond in kind. So if you're not registered, then I suggest you do so, because it's very helpful. Not only do we send out notifications through BidSync, but other municipalities as well. Okay, so it's not just the City of Bridgeport. Now, as far as some of the barriers that we've encountered while working with contractors, one of them has definitely been bonding. So what we've done at the City of Bridgeport, there was a requirement where if the project is $50,000 or more, then you're required bonding. But as part of the ordinance that was passed, we raised the level to 100,000. So if you're a certified woman-owned business or minority-owned business, then now the threshold has been raised from 50,000 to 100,000 to try to make it a little more accessible in that regard. We also were awarded $2 million from the state of Connecticut in order to develop a bonding program for bid, payment, and performance bonds. We're currently talking with DECD, and we expect within the next month or so to have a contract signed and have an executive director in place in order to send out information on how you can actually apply for the bonding program that we will be making available very shortly. So one thing that I do want to stress while I'm here is that in order for you to be successful at getting a bid with the city of Bridgeport, I want you to know that really what it takes is making sure that if you're a minority company, that you get the certification, that your workers are OSHA certified, that you basically run your business as efficiently as possible, so that way when you bid, you can be competitive as far as being the lowest bidder, because really that's what it is. It's the lowest bidder that is awarded the contract, that has everything in place that we require of them. Doesn't matter if you know somebody or things of that nature, whatever you may hear out there, it's not the case. Basically, it's really just coming to the city, to our office, registering, making sure we have your information, and just basically doing the best you can to run your company as efficiently as possible to be competitive in that regard. Okay, so I just want to make that very clear. Okay, so thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
We'll move on now to one of the topics that I think everybody's waiting to hear, and this will be coming from Attorney Bradley Wolf, and it's contract compliance. Attorney, if you're here, welcome, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Vi, for inviting me. Thanks to my friend Harold Gabriel from Andron Construction, who I'm substituting for. And I was asked to just go over some of the basics of what you have to do to get a contract. So, see if we can work this. The first thing that anybody who wants to do work on a construction contract for is to read the scope of the work. It's really important that this be done for every contract, every time. If you're comfortable with the people you've worked for or working with, that's good, but requirements change. You have to know that the materials that you're going to supply, the timing of the supply, the equipment that you'll need, and how many man-hours are all figured into whether or not you have the capacity to do this job. Don't assume just because you've done it before that it's going to be the same way again. Architects are different, building codes change, experience causes changes. So if you assume that you're going to put that wall up just the way you've always done it, you could be sadly mistaken, and that could cost you at the end. What about other requirements that you may have or not have? Did you assume that the general contractor was going to supply all the hoisting to get things up to the third floor when you find out that you have to? What about cutting holes, patching? Is that yours or is that somebody else's? Who's going to provide winter protection? Really understand the scope of work about what you're going to get into before you even think about bidding the job. The next question that you have when you're dealing particularly with public works is what requirements are you going to need What paperwork are you going to need to be able to both bid the job and then perform the work? I just listed the ones that came to the top of my head, but you've got to make sure that you have this accounted for when you're doing a bid. Are your tradesmen licensed? Do they have their certifications? Do you have everybody lined up to do the work? Is your MBE certification up to date? Is theirs? Sadly mistaken, it gets down to look at the contract before you bid the job, figure out what you need. Remember, everyone, the definition of the low bidder is the guy who left something out. Don't leave anything out that's critical. The next contract clause that you really have to look at is, how do I get paid? There are three basic forms of payment in Connecticut. There's the pay if paid clause, which basically says to a subcontractor from a general contractor, if I get paid someday, then you get paid. Those clauses have been upheld. I submit they're dangerous. For a small contractor, you don't want to know about this. You want to try to negotiate that away. Then there's the traditional pay when paid, where the contractor says to the subcontractor, when I get paid by the owner, I'll pay you. Well, that doesn't mean you'll never get paid. It just means it could be a long time. And then there's the third type of payment, net 30 days. I will send you a bill, you will pay the bill within 30 days or so. That's really what you're looking for. But what do you have to do to get there from here? One, know what paperwork you're going to need. Do you need certified payrolls? Do you need certified payrolls from any subcontractors that you have to have? Make sure you have the capacity to do that. Does the job require lien waivers? If so, what are you waiving? I've seen lien waivers that waive everything right up to the date. Arguably retainage, which is, I'm not sure what it is in Bridgeport. It can be as 5%, 5%. I've seen 5%, I've seen on state work 10%. I've seen 5% reduced to 2.5%, but you don't want to waive that. And then there are the infamous claims where you've had a listing and you don't want to waive any claims, things that you've been debating back and forth. So know what you need to have, make sure you have the capacity to provide it, and make sure that when you submit your pay app, you're not boxing up the works, because you don't often know what the source of funding for this work is. If it's got an SBA loan, if it's got federal money coming into it. All these agencies want to know that their particular requirements are met all the way down the line from the GC down to the subcontractors. I wanted to say a word about change orders, not very much. Everybody knows that contractors and contracts all say your change order has to be in writing. Everybody also knows that when the superintendent for the GC is yelling at you, we've got to do this extra, you're slowing up the job, you're going to do it. So make sure you document it. Make sure that you've kept a list of what's going on. Keep track of your material. It's not that hard, but it's essential if you ever want to get paid for this work. And submit it timely. Oftentimes contracts will say that if you don't submit a change order within so many days of the occurrence or notice of it, you won't get paid. And trust me, you won't. I've seen change orders submitted after the GC's had his final payment. Not much sympathy for that, so it's really important. Finally, I'd like to end up is when you're looking at your contract and you've got the scope nailed down, you've got the capacity to do the work, you've got all your paperwork in place, look at what the dispute resolution clauses are. Are you going to be in arbitration with somebody? Are you going to be in litigation with somebody? AIA form contracts have somebody called an initial decision maker. When do you have to get your information to him? Have that in the back of your mind, particularly if things start to get a little bit shaky on the job. And really, that's where I'd like to end, but I can't emphasize enough to read that contract before you get started. The best contracts and the best jobs are one where you sign that contract, you get the signed one back, you put it in your desk drawer, and that's where it stays until you take it out to file it, job closed. So good luck in all this processing, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Now, the last but not the least of any special order, we'll be hearing from Dr. Fred McKinney, the President of the Greater New England MSDC. Dr. Fred. Yes.
Well, I saw the mayor come in. I was fully expecting to get bumped, but welcome. My name is Fred McKinney. I'm President and CEO of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. And I also want to thank Chairman Nieves, President, Executive Director Miller, Vase Construction, and all the folks that helped put this together. I'm here to talk about the council and some of the things and how we can help. But before I do that, I want to know who's here. And I'd like to ask all of the business owners are here, or people who are here with businesses, just to stand up. So, okay, so everybody else is here for a free meal, right? Okay, so, no, thank you, that helps a lot. That's not why I asked the question. It was a serious question, but I do want to know who's here because I think that there are a lot of resources in the room, and I think you can see that by the people who didn't stand up. And the people who didn't stand up are here to help, and our organization is one of those organizations that's here to assist you and your business to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. I want to talk about a couple of things that the Greater New England Council is doing, but before I do that, just briefly talk about, many of you may not know who we are. The Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council at one time was known as the Connecticut Minority Purchasing Council. We've grown. We now cover all 6 New England states. We have a headquarters here in Bridgeport, Connecticut at 333 State Street. We have an office in Boston, Massachusetts. We just recently won a $1 million contract from the U.S. Department of Commerce to assist minority businesses throughout the region. We had a similar project out of our Boston office. We're into the 3rd year of that project. But our mission as an organization is to connect minority businesses with large corporations and the public sector. So we are a connecting organization. We have over 250 large corporate members of the organization. They cover every industry. They are typically very large companies. So most of your Fortune 500 companies that are located here in Connecticut are members of the Greater New England Council. We also have as another group of stakeholders the minority business community. So we certify minority businesses on behalf of those corporations. So we have close to 500 minority businesses in our organization, and they had combined sales, and we just did the numbers. They had combined sales last year of over $7 billion. So our companies range in size from starting up to companies that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. Our organization connects minority businesses with those corporate and public sector buyers by helping find the opportunities. But we also, in addition to connecting, and we certify businesses. You heard from Ezekiel from the city. They have a process of registering the businesses. The state of Connecticut has a certification process. We have a certification process that's recognized by the private sector. So I encourage you, if you're certified with the city, you're certified with the state, consider being certified with us. Our MBE director is here, Jennifer Little Greer. Jennifer, just stand up so people can see you. And she sits in our Bridgeport office. The programs that I wanted to talk about that might be of interest to you are several. I mentioned the MBDA project. That's a project where the MBDA actually has clients that are the MBEs. And the clients come to us and we help them. First, we identify what they're trying to do, and we help those clients achieve what they're trying to achieve by either providing them with the resources, and we're talking either technical resources, information that will help them accomplish their goals. And we have several goals in that MBDA project. One is contracts. So in our Bridgeport project, we have to perform or participate in, for our clients, close to $100 million in contracts. Our fiscal year just ended, and our second year in our Boston program, the clients in that program had over $90 million in contracts from the work that we helped them with. That was in Boston. We're bringing that here to Bridgeport, that model here to Bridgeport, with the support of the U.S. Department of Commerce and the council. So that's something, if you're interested in participating in that part of the program, come down and see us. Jennifer's here. We would encourage you to become certified if you're eligible. Another program that I wanted to mention is we haven't even publicly announced this, so this is the first time we've shared this information, is we have space in our Bridgeport office down at 333 State Street, a classroom space, and we put it there for a reason. And what we're going to do with that space, beginning in January of 2014, is opening that space up on Saturday mornings for what we're going to call a community business school. And it's going to be free. So anybody, thank you. Anybody who wants to learn about how to improve their businesses and their chances of success are welcome to come in. We're going to have business leaders, political leaders come by, talk about their businesses, and from that, I think great things can happen. And so we encourage all of you to pay attention to it, drop by, and we're going to start that in January. And it's going to just run. So we want, with that project, to build a community of successful urban minority businesses. And to do that, there needs to be a place where they can come together and learn together. I just finished reading Steve Jobs' book. I don't know if any of you have read that book, but that's a great book. You know, that was a book that talks about Apple Computer and some other companies. They kind of started out like that. They just got together, people like-minded. And out of that getting together of like-minded business people, several billion-dollar companies were formed, okay? So I think we can do that in Bridgeport. That's my vision with that project. In addition to that, the council just recently won a contract from the Connecticut DOT. And with that Connecticut DOT contract, what we're going to do, and DOT has huge opportunities. So there are opportunities with the Housing Authority, there are opportunities with the city of Bridgeport, there are opportunities with the state of Connecticut, there are opportunities with Connecticut DOT. So we've been engaged by DOT to provide, to get into the nitty-gritty of businesses that want to do business with DOT and do it successfully. So we're going to be providing not just technical support, but this is going to be very high-level managerial support to the owners of businesses that are trying to get this business from DOT. So that's something that's also getting ready to start. We've just signed documents about a month ago, and that will roll out probably at the first of the year. And the final program that I wanted to mention, and that's next, I have two programs I want to mention. The next to last program I want to mention is some work that we're doing with the state, another project we're doing with the state of Connecticut through the Department of Economic and Community Development. And I think that you need to give Representative Santiago a hand, because he was very instrumental in bringing those resources here to Bridgeport. So Ezekiel, thank you. And this is a project that is, the earlier speaker, Rocco, talked about bonding. And as Rocco knows, you know, it's not a cakewalk when you're going for a bond. It's serious business, because it's serious money on the table. And one of the problems, the barriers that minority businesses have faced for years, particularly in construction, is having adequate bonding capacity. So this is a program that is supported by the state through the Department of Economic and Community Development, that the council is going to be performing bonding education with bonding professionals And we're going to talk about how to, and this is specifically for those construction companies, specifically for minority and women-owned businesses, specifically for businesses in the greater Bridgeport area. So that's something that I'm proud to work with on Ezekiel and the mayor's office. They've been very instrumental in this, and so we're hoping to launch that real soon as well. The final program I want to mention is our friends at the Bridgeport Housing Authority. So this year, we started with their support a resident Section 3 owned housing training program. And you know, this is very early stage businesses. We have some of the people who participated in that program here in the room today. In fact, the winner of the business plan of the program is here, Fred Shaw. Why don't you stand up, Fred? Fred is he's a budding construction entrepreneur. Put together a great plan. Wants to do business with the Housing Authority. Wants to do business with the city of Bridgeport, and I think he's going to be successful at it. And so we helped Fred and other participants in that program understand what's necessary to be successful in whatever business they're in. So some of them were construction companies like Fred, some of them wanted to open a restaurant, but wherever they are, we think that these businesses, particularly businesses that are affiliated with the Housing Authority, need support. And so we want those businesses to have a chance, and those businesses that participate in the Section 3 program, they're also welcome to our community education program. So those are the 4 programs that I wanted to mention, and I'm going to leave you just with there are a couple of things there are a lot of things that make for a successful business, but preparation, and Rocco talked about this, our attorney talked about this as well. I mean, you got to be ready. And you can't wait till you get the contract or till the contract comes out to start getting ready. So, you know, when you leave here, you should start getting ready. You should assume that you're going to be successful. You need to prepare as if you're going to get that contract. And you're going to get it tomorrow. So get all of your ducks lined up, because you're going to be successful. But you got to want it, and you got to take the steps to get there. So I want to thank Vase Construction for inviting me to participate in this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions along with the other panelists, and I want to thank the panelists for their information as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fred. We've listened to banking and financing, contract compliance, bonding and qualifications, MBDA resources, and of course, small and minority business resources, all in the city of Bridgeport. Let's give a hand of applause to these great presenters here. So, the floor will be open now to questions and answers. Please, as I was told, just make it sound like a question, and we can roll on from here. Thank you very much.
We had a class. The class is over, but the program's not over. So what I would encourage you to do is come by the office. As I said, we're going to be opening our community business school in January, the second week in January. And so I would say come by then. There are plenty of people here from the Housing Authority today that can help you. So you need to get plugged into the Housing Authority opportunities. If you need specific help, I would say come by the office, and it's going to be one-on-one, okay? And I hope that next year we'll be able to do another program where we can open it up to a larger group. But in the meantime, we're committed to helping any resident of any Bridgeport Housing Authority unit, and they're interested in learning more about how to start a business, how to be successful at it.
Any more questions?
Good morning. It's not a question, it's not a comment with the class that Dr. Fred McKinney was talking about. It's a real good experience. If you guys need to get into something, everyone here needs to be have resources to grow their business. I just registered my business. I haven't got the registration forms back yet, so I'm fresh. But I can tell you this, I will be successful. Thank you.
Yes, greetings. My name is Terry Martin from RTO Construction Services, and I would like to know how would I go about being certified, DOT certified, and what are the procedures and how do I go about it?
I mentioned several certifications. There's the state DAS certification. That's for non-DOT business. The city registration is a separate one. Our certification is other. You're asking about DOT, which is called the DBE certification. So that stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprises. So their certification is online, and you need to go to the Connecticut DOT website, and they have an office, they've got a staff. That's what they do, is that they certify DBEs on behalf of the state of Connecticut's Department of Transportation. And so anybody that's interested in doing work on the rails, Bradley, the roads, needs to get DBE certified. That's kind of the entry test to get into the DBE, the DOT world. And so, but you can find that information by going to the Connecticut Department of Transportation. And what are the qualifications? The qualifications, there's a presumption that race and ethnicity are reasons to be qualified for a DBE, but there are some hurdles with regards to the wealth of the owners. And so there is they ask you some very personal questions because they're trying to make sure that the people who are eligible for the program are actually eligible for the program. And so you will have to provide information about your income and your net worth. But if you get over that, then you are eligible for that program.
Thank you.
And if I could just add, that's why I said know who you're working for, because the certification that you need may be something other than you expect. DOT is unique. A DAS certification doesn't help you there. A DOT certification may not help you with DAS.
Right.
And there are other certifications nationwide that are out there, some of which are recognized and some of which aren't. So if you're interested in working on a program for the city of Bridgeport, you've got a resource here. If you want to go to the state of Connecticut, there are websites, both the DAS website, you know, you used to have a Department of Public Works. Now that's part of, now it's the Department of Construction Services, which is part of the Department of Administrative Services. So it's a changing landscape out there. You've got to look at what certification you'll need for that particular part of the work. Sometimes these bids come up really quickly, so I think the advice of be prepared if you want to get into that work, start to look now at what those requirements are. So get to the websites, and most of the time the folks are pretty helpful in going through there, and the agencies will tell you. I mean, different agencies, because of their funding, because of how they're doing, are having MBDB requirements and what certification will they accept. For example, the Metropolitan District in Hartford requires certifications, and it can come from a couple of different sources. You're working on a DEEP or DPH funded project, they have certification requirements. So you've got to go look at these ahead of time when you want to get into that kind of work.
Great. Thank you so much.
My concern is that sometimes when bids send out these invitations to bid, the general contractor, they call you, and once you put a bid in, the bid is due in 5 days. How do we circumvent this to have us a longer lag time so we can better prepare ourselves for bids? I don't know who I'm addressing that to.
Actually, I know I'm not on the panel, just to let you know that Bert Charlie is here from the city purchasing, and he'll be the best one to answer that question in the field.
Well, if you're a subcontractor and the job is coming out that you're interested in, a lot of the website portals will give you an idea as to who the bidders were. I know that some do and some don't. Find out who those folks are. So if you're interested in the project, you shouldn't wait for somebody to call you. you should be calling them when that bid first comes out, saying, is there an opportunity for me? Oftentimes, you don't know who the bidder is. That's a bigger problem.
Yeah, if I could add to that really quick. That's really what it's going to take. For example, some of the bids that go out, it'll specify that there's a mandatory walkthrough. And what I've seen contractors do that are not even planning to bid on the contract themselves, they'll go to that walkthrough and they'll be part of it and they'll look and see who looks like they're going to be a serious bidder. And when given the opportunity, they'll approach them. They'll say, here's my card. I'm a certified MBE and I can help you meet your goals. Give me a call and we can talk numbers, you know, and I've seen people get work that way. So it's making the initiative, taking the effort to do things like that makes a huge difference in that regard, sir.
And I'd like to add that, and I think this is advice for every small business owner here, is that the world of bidding, that's the world you're going to be living in, particularly if you're in construction. And you have to stop being surprised about a bid. You have to have in your, right next to your desk, right next to your computer, your information. And the fact of the matter is, almost 90% of the information that is required by every bid is the same. And you've got to have it in a format that is readily usable for any bid. So you're not scrambling for trying to put together the information that you need to respond quickly. And that way that's not good use of your time. Your better use of your time is to go out and find out who's doing what and what's coming out so you don't get surprised. But when that bid does come out, you're ready. Okay, so that's part of being ready, is have your information in a format that will allow you to respond quickly.
In addition, I just want to say that there are a lot of, I'm sure all of you know, or most of you know, that there are databases out there, such as BidSync, that will say, okay, this bid's coming out on this time. And if you do know what the bid is or what the results are, and as far as looking into these databases, it could be something set up as clockwork, you know, or you can call the cities, the municipalities, and see where they post their bids out and when the results are coming out, and that way you know who the result winner is. You can approach them and say, this is who I am, this is what I do, you know, is there an opportunity? Other than that, you know, if somebody's calling you and giving you 5 days to do a bid, I'd be hard pressed to sit there and, you know, be able to offer an accurate bid, because you know, 5 days, I don't really care about how big the job is. 5 days is not really enough time for you guys to sit there and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is what we need to do, pricing everything out. So, as Fred said, you know, be prepared. Look at these on a daily, maybe weekly, if not daily, when these bids are coming out, what the results are, which are easy to find, and then going to the winners and sending an email out, simple as that, and telling them who you are and what you can do.
Good morning. First of all, I wanted to congratulate the city of Bridgeport and also the Housing Authority for doing this. I live in Stamford and we have nothing like this, so feel blessed that you're in Bridgeport and this is being done. I'm a small business owner in Stamford, and you guys are talking about the DBE program and also DAS. You definitely want to try to get certified immediately as a DBE, because you can do it as soon as you open your business, as soon as you're registered with the state of Connecticut, and it's free. And when you were talking about the requirements for income, they're looking for poor people like us. So I didn't want you to think that, you know, you need to be making millions of dollars. I think your net worth, you know, after you take out your house and your business, is $1.3 billion. So if you don't qualify, call me. I have some things to sell to you. But also, well, I forgot my way now. But, you know, down here, as a DBE, there's a lot of opportunities in New York, and as soon as you get qualified as a DBE in the state of Connecticut, I would suggest to everybody in construction, because the state of New York has a lot of opportunities under construction, and also they've raised the bar where they're trying to get like 25% minority women-owned businesses. So if you're not having success in Connecticut in construction, I would definitely be trying to apply in the state of New York.
Thank you.
I think that will be the last question. Hello, this question is for Dr. Fred. I know your program is, your second piece of your program is currently finished, and just to update everyone else, what will be the third step, or what's next on the piece for the resident-owned business technical assistance program with the Bridgeport Housing Authority?
The next phase is part of that community business school. We're going to market that to housing authority residents and Section 3 business owners. But we also have an open door policy, and I've shared this with the housing authority. They can send any resident-owned business to our offices at 333 State Street, and we will take care of them.
One more question, or we are finished?
Okay. Thank you all very much. Well, they say that the companies and businesses that grow very fast and big are businesses that wake up every morning and they don't say they know what they are doing, but they ask the question, what don't we know and what are we not doing? And I think that is why this program this morning is very, very important. And for that reason, I want to acknowledge the presence of some few people here. And if you don't mind, please raise your hand or stand up so the rest can see you. Of course, we've already seen Dulcie Nieves, the chairperson of the Bridgeport Housing Authority Commissioners, Shante Hanks, James Brown, Amencio Santiago, Americo Santiago, sorry for that, yes, and Reverend Sultan Stack Jr. These are all members of the Bridgeport Housing Authority Commission. Please, let's give them a hand of applause because they were all instrumental. And at this point, we are going to invite our special guests. A couple of years back, I was hosting a summer camp with a group of young students from Bridgeport. When we ran out of topic, we decided to talk about politicians. And when it came to one particular politician, I asked them why do they like that person. And one young kid said, well, he's cute and he's very funny. And I said, how did you know? He said, my mama says that. And that politician is with us today. That is the Honorable Mayor of the City of Bridgeport, Mr. Bill Finch.
Well, that sets a high bar. Now I have to be cute and funny. I don't know if I'm going to disappoint you or not, but I'm very excited to be here. This journey for us in the city began when I got elected 6 years ago. All the appointees to the Housing Authority, I'm proud to say, were my appointees with the charge of make sure people live in safe, clean, and decent housing. And I was joined in that by many people in this room, but not the least of which the commissioners you heard, but also Denise Taylor-Moy, who's the president of the Marina Village Association, and my dear friend and partner in all things reform-oriented in the city. So Denise, it's also very good to see you. A lot of times in politics, people forget that it's not just the elected top leader, it's all the people that are working with you as a team. And so we now have a great team, I believe, on the Housing Authority. You've heard their names. I'm very proud that they were my appointees. I'm also very proud of my staff. I've been building, I think, what is the best staff anywhere in New England to make us the greenest city in New England, green in both ways, all right? Green in sustainability and green in your wallet, right? And it's really the same thing because as we make Bridgeport a green city with my staff members, I'm going to ask them to stand. Deb Cavanis, Christina Smith. We also have people you're going to hear from later, and you've heard from Ezekiel. Carla Gonzalez is here. I believe Bern Tardy is here. Bill Coleman's going to be here. We have a terrific staff that's here with the marching orders of how do we get people who look like the city of Bridgeport to profit in the city of Bridgeport. It's very simple. I have to go to the grocery store. I have to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I have to go to parent meetings with my kids at Reed School, and I have to meet my neighbors. And when my neighbors don't have work, it makes me very upset. And it makes them very upset. So tens of millions of dollars in the last 6 years have gone into small and minority business in Bridgeport. And I'm not satisfied. I want a lot more. And I want a lot more because it makes me happy. It makes me happy to go to the Dunkin' Donuts and go to the grocery store and fill up with gas and talk to my neighbors when they have a job. I can tell you the proudest day of being mayor in the city of Bridgeport was when Robert McLeod was topping off the Discovery Museum. Now, before I was elected, there was never an African-American construction manager in the history of the city. And I will read you the list of McKissick, McLeod, Tricon, Aries, and Coleman. Now, there's five. There were none before, there's 5 now. Tens of millions of dollars have gone through those companies, and what I've told them each is, I want to see a lot of people on that job that don't look like me. And it's a very simple ethic, but it works. You know, we're the only country in the history of the planet that was founded for the pursuit of happiness. Now, I know many people haven't reached all of their happiness yet, but we're free to pursue it. But it means every American gets to pursue their happiness, even if you live in Bridgeport. And so many times we've left our urban centers behind, and Deb's efforts and Vase Construction and now Jimmy Miller are really moving us to a place I feel a lot better about. Let me just say a little bit about all the stuff happening in the city of Bridgeport. I won't have the time. I'd need the rest of the day through dinner to describe all the projects going on in Bridgeport. That's how busy, that's how much of a boom town Bridgeport is. Unfortunately, you won't read about any of this in the newspaper. The news, if somebody in a neighborhood shoots someone or steals from someone, it will be on the front page. But the fact that we are rebuilding the city and we are building it with brown and black hands is never going to be in the paper. And that's okay. That's okay, because the money's going to be in your account. That's what I'm concerned about. So we got to just stay positive and not be daunted by the fact that we're living in a very negative time media-wise. But let me just tell you some of the exciting things that are going on. Fuel cells, electricity without combustion. They're built all over South Korea, assembled all over South Korea, I should say, built in Connecticut, and we buy none. But there are 600 or 700 jobs. It's a growing industry. We are building the largest fuel cell in the world on land that the city donated. We had paid for it, but we held it for many, many years in order to build this very complicated, very difficult process. And that's a lesson here. It took us 6 years to get here where we are with our small minority business resource office, and there's where we want to be, but we had to start somewhere. And we had to get to this point, and now we build on that. So this fuel cell is being built. In January, around January 1, we're going to flip the switch on 15 megawatts of electricity in Bridgeport, electricity without combustion, that is going to lead the future of the world into the hydrogen economy. That's here in Bridgeport. Not a lot said about it, but that's here. Bass Pro is coming to Steel Point. Conservatively, there will be 3 million visitors to that store every year. To put it in perspective, the ferry boat carries about 1 million. That's like bringing 3 more ferry boat systems to Bridgeport of people to spend their money. We have to be ready for that, but there will be lots of construction on that site. Now, you know that I only build with project labor agreements, and I sit on the unions to make sure that their subs are in this room. And that's not gonna change with Steel Point. It will be different because it's a private job, it's not a city job. We are building a new Longfellow School. We are building a new Roosevelt School. We are going to be building a new Harding High School, and please join me in talking to the Board of Education about not naming it Harding. I very much want to name this Barack Obama High School. I want to have this be the first facility in the United States. You know, this is the 50th anniversary of losing my hero, John Kennedy, that told me as a little boy that he needed to go into public service. The first facility in the United States that was named after him was Kennedy Stadium. First facility named after John F. Kennedy in the entire United States was our stadium for Central High School. I want the first facility to be named after Barack Obama to be our high school in the city of Bridgeport. What do you think? You know, when I mentioned that at the Harding graduation, the kids erupted, because this is, I can identify with that, because as a little child from an Irish Catholic family, John Kennedy walked on water. I can just imagine how the younger African-American students feel about Barack Obama. I can appreciate that. So that's going to be built. not a dream. The money is there. It's being designed. Steel Point will have Bass Pro, and very soon there'll be announcements for at least 1 or 2 hotels. There will be other buildings, probably about a half a dozen restaurants announced within the next year. We're going to be opening Pleasure Beach, a beach that's been closed for 25 years from the poorest neighborhood in the city, the most nature-deprived neighborhood in the city. We're going to open up what is equivalent to us of a national seashore for our kids to go to and swim. There are going to be parks built on Wayne Street. There's going to be a park built in Nob Hill condominiums. We are going to build an all-inclusive playground in Beardsley Park so the children who have physical and mental disadvantages and challenges can play alongside of the children who don't. First one in Bridgeport. I told you I could go on and on. There are so many things happening in the city. Amber Soleil over here, who works for Epic, sits in our office, and she could give you an even greater list of what's going on. You've seen the new park, Phase 1 on Knowlton Street. Phase 2 is being built right now. Phase 3 will be the demolition of some other abandoned buildings adjacent to that for a parking lot for the park and a walkway along the water to be able to fish. We're going to open up our waterfront. We're going to work with GE, not only to build Obama High School, but to bring other industry into that site and to restore that river. You know, for too long, our kids have grown up with no connection to nature. We're going to make Bridgeport the greenest city, but we've got to also change our minds. Bill Clinton told us this many years ago, that if we implement energy conservation in all of our homes and businesses, if we build parks, if we plant trees, if we reduce the heat island effect in our cities, if we fight climate change by renewable resources like covering the old landfill with solar, which we'll be doing next year in partnership with United Illuminating. You'll drive through the city of Bridgeport and you won't see a smokestack, you'll see a giant solar array. So, you know, changing Bridgeport's image and changing our mindset is really important. Our recycling rates went up 67% this year. The 4 new academies that we just built, the Military Academy, the Engineering Academy, the Zoology and Conservation Academy, and the Information Technology at the Fairchild Wheeler campus. You know how hard we had to fight the suburbs to build that, right? But we got it, didn't we? We stuck together, we stayed positive, and we built it. Those 4 academies are in a building. 40% of that building was built with materials that you put in the blue bins here in Bridgeport and other towns. 40% of what you put in those bins made that building. That's an amazing thing. That's a complete cycle. That wasn't going to Brazil or Arkansas to mine the earth and get raw materials. It was taking the raw materials out of our waste stream, which is no longer a waste stream, it is a resource stream. And it created jobs. Adrian Wells here with the Green Team. We're creating jobs for the reentry community, which is a critical initiative. Veterans and reentry, we've got to work with those guys and women. Otherwise, they're not going to have any options. You know, we've got to give them options. We're going to recycle mattresses. We're going to be turning old tires into oil in the eco-industrial park. I told you I could go on, and I won't, but there's just so many things going on. I want you to stay optimistic and hopeful because we are really moving in the right direction. We're really empowering the right people. We're rewarding the hard work. We're rewarding good quality work. We're not going to rehire you if you screw up a job, just like anybody else. That's the way it works. But I have to tell you that my satisfaction with jobs that come through the Small Minority Business Resource Office is higher than any other place where we do get jobs. People are desirous, they're eager, they're hopeful, they're willing, and they work hard, and they usually give us a really good price. Don't forget that the taxpayers need a good price. We are moving in the right direction. As I mentioned, Bill Clinton, these are all jobs that we're creating are jobs that they cannot be exported to China. Those jobs are going to stay here, working to make homes more energy efficient, reduce people's utility bills, working to plant trees into landscape. Landscape architecture is a profession that should boom and help us save this cooking planet that we have right now. And by the way, while we're on the whole idea of climate change, who's going to suffer the most? The people who are going to suffer the most are the people that live near water. Where do more people in the world who are poor live than any place else? They live near the coastline. If you look at a world map and you look at where poverty is, it's near the coastline. The Navy is telling us that by 2100, the water levels could be as much as 3 feet higher. That means lots of Bridgeport, where there's houses, are going to be flooded. We've got to stop the climate change. We've got to slow it. And bringing this back home, working with Jimmy, and isn't he a refreshing face to have at running the Housing Authority? I'll tell you, we're lucky. New Haven's loss is our gain. He just, you know, I just said to him, you know, I want you to stay 3 or 4 years. And he says he's getting old. He doesn't look old to me, but he's saying, you know, I don't know if I got 3 or 4 years. Don't you think he has 3 or 4 years in him? I do. You know, we've got to move Marina Village. And every time we talk about moving a public housing authority, the people in the units rightly feel threatened because they've been gypped for so long. And they're afraid, if I move, well, am I going to get a unit back? I completely understand that, and I don't know that they should trust government because government has screwed them so many times, you know. But I do believe we need their trust and we need to work with them because they're in a dangerous area. The area is going to flood. And, you know, I beat up on the United Illuminating in the last storm because they were turning my neighborhood on. I said, I don't need my lights on right now. I'm okay. I got enough income. Talk to people who are going to lose everything in the refrigerator. And that's devastating to them because they don't have enough income to just go out and replace it. So they didn't particularly like that. But we've got to work at resiliency at PT. We've got to work at resiliency at Marina. We've got to work at resiliency at the places where poor people live because they don't have the ability to do it themselves and they're counting on us. But that's good for the people in this room because it's going to mean work. And the relocation of Marina is tied into the entire work that President Obama and before him President Clinton worked on climate change. It's directly related to that, but it's going to mean jobs, jobs that are in this room, and jobs that won't be exported to China. Thank you very much. I'd love to come back and talk to you more at some other time.
So we would have from the Bridgeport Business Council, Mr. Jeb Bishop. That will be on topics. The topic will be on downtown project development. We will have Mr. Bill Coleman from the City of Bridgeport, Office of Planning and Economic Development. And then we will have Christina Smith, who is from the City of Bridgeport Central Grants Office. We have Ted Grabaz, City of Bridgeport Public Facilities. And we have Amber Saller, City of Bridgeport Construction Management Services. And we have Bernd Tardy and Catherine Collin from the City of Bridgeport Office of Purchasing. And in there, we'll count down to a minute now. We will start with the second. It will go the same method. Each presenter would do the presentation, and then at the end, we will do the questions and answers. And this panel is no special order, but we'll just start with the first seat and then roll on till the end. So, are we all set? All right, so with that, we would invite on the first panel is that Mr. Burns. Okay, well, you start. So please, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Bernd Tardy, the acting purchasing agent for the City of Bridgeport. As Ezekiel mentioned before, we use a third-party bidding system called BidSync. We found it very efficient, and we're very happy with it. And from what I hear, some of you people are not. The way it works is that you register your company. It's free of charge. So if they try to sell you something, just don't buy it. It's like everything else. They try to sell you value-added services, and it's your option to take them or leave them. So if you don't want to take them, don't. What happens is after you register your company, if you're a construction company, you'll sign up to be notified of bids that have to do with construction. When we put a bid up on BidSync, an email notification goes out to you, and that's how you get notified. A couple of the nuances that you may not be aware of, not everything goes up on BidSync. We have a bid threshold of $7,500, a formal bid threshold of $7,500, so things under $7,500 don't have to go on to BidSync. The best way to find out about those is to contact the various departments like public facilities, the police department, the fire department, the Board of Ed. and kind of develop a relationship with those people. One new thing that you might not be aware of that's on the horizon is beginning soon, I don't know when, but we're currently working on it, but when you submit a bid, you now have to identify your subcontractors up front. So that's going to be a big change. That might help the gentleman earlier that finds out about bids too late. Another thing, as I mentioned, we have a bid threshold of $7,500. The state recently allowed cities to raise that level to $25,000. So we are currently working with the city attorneys to possibly change the ordinance to raise the bid threshold. Again, BidSync, BIDSYNC.com, sign up, get notified of the bids. As the other gentleman also said, the gentleman from the bonding company, I think it was, or something, read the bids. There's so many different things about different bids and different certifications, different licenses that you need. And one of the things that we find is that we wind up with a lot of bids that are non-responsive because this stuff isn't there. So make sure you read the bids. They do change. Different departments like the WPCA, they have a lot of different requirements than the Public Works Department, and the Board of Ed has requirements, so not every bid is the same. And that's about all I have to say. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Thaddeus. And so on the list here, we'll be having our second speaker. You have anything coming on?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Jeff Bishop. I'm with the Center for Sustainable Business Growth here at the BRBC, the Bridgeport Regional Business Council, and I'm really excited to be here today. I wanted to thank our sponsors, the City of Bridgeport, the Housing Authority, and of course, Vase Construction for putting on this wonderful event. I've been doing business recruitment and business retention here in the City of Bridgeport for quite a while, and I got to tell you, this is probably one of the most exciting times here in the City of Bridgeport. And as the mayor talked about, there are a lot of projects going on here in the city that don't really get publicized, and I'm going to talk specifically about a couple of them. But as the mayor talked about, there has been an effort that he has been leading here in the city called the Be Green 2020, and it's really the mayor's objective to make Bridgeport the cleanest and greenest city, not only in North America, but in this area. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bridgeport's history because I always say that you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. So we have a very well-established manufacturing past. We were considered the arsenal of democracy. We have done a lot of deindustrialization here in town, and there's been urban flight from the city of Bridgeport. There are 4 strategies for Bridgeport growth that are implemented here in the city: waterfront recapture, downtown repositioning, neighborhood revitalization, and industrial reinvestment. There is no silver bullet to the reconstruction and really the revitalization of Bridgeport, but with the help of all of you and the people here on the panel, we hope to make that a reality. In 1994, there was a West End Municipal Development Plan put in place, and as you can see, this took place over on the west side, and in Phase 1, which was started in 1994, there was a lot of work that was accomplished, and now we are embarking on Phase 2, which is expanding it into that green area. So we're going to take that original MDP and expand it into the green area that you see there. Next slide. The focus of the West End MDP is jobs retention and expansion, building rehabilitation, selective demolition, and modern manufacturing facilities. This is a picture of what the West End used to look like before 1994. You've got Bryan Electric, you've got Harvey Hubble, you've got a lot of vacant industrial polluted properties in that area. Next slide, please. You've got buildings that look like this currently that were taken down. Still, this is one. You still can see that from the highway. The key issues regarding the MDP is to provide community security, to reverse job loss and business flight, acquire and remediate and repurpose properties and buildings here in this area, and restore the image of a vibrant economic activity. The accomplishments so far, based on the MDP, has been to create and preserve jobs, improve business climate, increase the tax base by over $30 million, and it's created over 950 plus jobs. And it's transformed decline into progress. This is the current stage of the west side, as you can see it. There's been a lot of progress and a lot of new construction that's going to be of interest to the folks here in this room. Next slide, please. And this is just a few of the things that are taking place over on the west side that you don't really hear about, but I'll just briefly go through them. Chavez Bakery, as you know, the Cesar Battaglia School was built, new Bridgeport Precinct, the Julio's Sausage is going into a building over there on the west side, the rehab of the former bead chain factory, the Dominion Fuel Cell, which, as the mayor mentioned, this is the largest fuel cell in the Western Hemisphere right here in Bridgeport. We also have O&G Sales Center, Acto Intertrade, a lot of the transformation and a body shop over in that area as well. Of course, Acto Intertrade is built on the former Bryant site. Next slide. Cesar Battaglia School, Chavez Bakery, transportation improvements of the viaduct there over on Fairfield Avenue, the police precinct, and also the AutoZone that was constructed over there on State Street, as well as the plastics factory. The Dominion's fuel cell, as I talked about, is the second largest in the world, but the largest in North America. Of course, Wentfield Park went through a transformation. It was a polluted area. Hit it. This is what it looked like before. It was all polluted, and this is the after. You've got nice basketball courts and so forth. These are just some of the businesses that have moved in and that are a part of the original MDP over on the west side there. The analysis of the current annual tax revenue generated from this MDP was about $1.1 million per year, and that came from 25 new businesses and industries that were established over there. We always like to talk about the impact of new jobs. The impact of 100 new jobs translates into $5.5 million in new personal income, $2.5 million in bank deposits, $110 million in residential home sales, $144,000 in property tax income, $1.9 million in new retail sales, and $1.5 million in durable goods and sales, and $520,000 in sales tax income. The Green B 2020 here in Park City has been something that the mayor has really pushed, and as he mentioned, not only is it green for the city, it's green for our pockets as well. Next slide, please. Our goals in the new MDP is going to be energy efficiency and renewable energy generation, recycle and reuse, water resource management, open space and park restoration, green jobs and business development. The Be Green 2020 received the Governor's 2010 Climate Change Award, participation of 100 new organizations, rave reviews from the federal and state levels. And this is a slide that I like to talk about, and I'll briefly touch on these because some of these companies have already moved into the area and some are on their way. And just to point out just a few, Santa Energy is utilizing biodiesel, which is now you'll be seeing that Bridgeport Biodiesel is now expanding here in the city of Bridgeport. And it's a pretty interesting company because it removes grease out of the wastewater stream and creates diesel fuel. Santa Energy blends biodiesel fuel. We also have a liquid natural gas filling station, so we're transforming over trucks into liquid natural gas, which saves our carbon footprint. There is also a green depot that is being built right now over on the west side, and that's going to be a store providing green building supplies here in the area. FlexiPave, I was sitting at the table with these folks. These folks take recycled tires, grind them up, and create paving so that they can be used. And not only is the green paving, water goes right through it, but it saves the environment and a lot of the toxic runoff from that. We also have coming here, did I see them? We also have a district heating loop, which will be on the books. And this is a pretty interesting project because, as you can see, Resco, you see these big stacks and you see all the smoke and steam coming off of the Resco. This is heat that's just being dissipated into the atmosphere. Our hope is to take that heat, create a hot water loop that will be able to heat over 5 million square feet of space. 2 million here in the downtown. So there is a huge construction project in mind in which we're taking this hot water loop, bringing it into the downtown and supplying heat to buildings and other folks in the area, like the Housing Authority could be benefiting from that, the University of Bridgeport, Sikorsky Aircraft that's in that area. So this is a very significant and construction-intensive project. You also have the aquaculture school over there on that area. You can go ahead. And I have the board here so you can talk about it. We also have the Mattress D constructing and recycling facility over on the west side, which is a part of the Eco-Technology Park, which is a great addition. We also have American Oil Solutions, which takes tires and extracts oil out of those. But the Eco-Technology Park is environmentally sound, is sustainable, innovative, economic, and smart. One of the things the mayor talked about is this landfill. I can remember as a kid, this was an active landfill. It was for construction material. It has now been greened over, and our hope is, next slide, please. And it's a renewable energy facility. Our hope is to cover about maybe 10 or 12 acres of the landfill and have it all solar panels. And the end game really is to create renewable and reliable energy. Next slide, please. This is what the fuel cell looks like. This is an actual fuel cell that's being constructed over on the west side. And there is a component that potentially wind might be a part of the Eco-Technology Park. 5 megawatts of renewable energy is hope to get from the landfill with between the anaerobic digester, which is going to be coming up next. And there is plans of putting an anaerobic digester and building that over on the west side so that food waste coming from institutional restaurants, hospitals, schools, instead of going into the waste stream, will be taken out, digested, methane gas will be created, and that will drive turbines to create power. This is a food waste digester that's planned for the west side. The benefit of having something along those lines is that they throw off heat, and that heat could be used for urban agriculture. And I know my colleagues are going to talk about one of the greenhouse projects that's slated for the east side. These projects create between 50 and 60 living wage jobs. And there's also a sludge digester that's slated for the west side, right off the wastewater treatment facility there. And as you can see, heated sludge is created, methane gas is produced, which then is used as a fuel for creating renewable and reliable energy. Talked about the mattress recycling facility, fabulous, fabulous project over on the west side. It is Park City Green. Adrienne is here. It's all Adrienne's dream and her creation. Next slide, please. Keeps the community clean and green. It saves hundreds and hundreds of thousands of mattresses from going into the landfills and not only spending the gas to get them there, but we recycle and create monies from this revenue stream. Here you have them taking apart, they get the steel, they get the wood, and they get also the material. No problem. Biofuel production, this is something that's very interesting as well. Next slide. Converts grease from restaurants, universities, hospitals into biofuel. Next slide. Biodiesel, there's going to be a new announcement here in the next few days. It's going to be expanding here in Bridgeport. It takes biodiesel, which you can use in home heating oil as well as for driving vehicles, and it's taken from yellow and brown grease. There's clean fueling stations over on the west side, one of the only ones east of the Mississippi. Enviro Express has put this together. Here's a fueling center over there, right off I-95. Another view of it. And then also there is the hope that we can get a facility that will retrofit trucks to be able to burn clean natural gas. The district heating loop I talked about. Next slide, please. We'll be able to heat buildings with clean renewable energy at much lower cost than burning fossil fuels. It would take the waste heat coming off of the Resco plant currently on the west side, and as you can see, it'll heat water and it will put it through large pipes that will be fed to the downtown as well as other areas here in the city. Very interesting. It's done all over Europe and saves a tremendous amount and reduces our carbon footprint. And as you can see, it's slated to come into the downtown and take approximately 2 million square feet of office space off of fossil fuels. Gray water pipeline, this is one that's pretty interesting. Next slide, please. One of the things that Resco does is it burns or utilizes about 1 million gallons of potable water, the water that you would drink or take showers with, to cool down the turbines at the waste stream plant there. There is a plan that what we're going to be doing is taking gray water, which is now being sent and discharged into Long Island Sound from our wastewater treatment plant. We're going to take that water, instead of dumping it into the Sound, sending it over to Resco and cooling the turbines. Not only does it save the environment by taking this gray water out of being discharged into Long Island Sound, but it saves Resco about 1 million gallons, $1 million in heating costs and buying water. Or cooling costs, I should say. Permeable Paving Company, I talked a little bit about that. FlexiPave, great company that's here, reuses recycled materials. It's used for installations where stormwater management is an important factor because it's pavement, that water just goes right through. Very, very innovative. Little or no long-term maintenance. Here you can see water being poured right through it, so it really saves the environment. None of the runoff that you would get from typical asphalt. Here is the installation right in front of City Hall. You can go and see it for yourself. It's nice and soft and can be used for running tracks, and sidewalks and the like. Reduces water runoff, soil erosion, flooding, and pesticides spreading into wetlands and waterways. Very innovative, very forward-thinking product. Next slide, please. South Avenue Green Infrastructure Project. This is something that's currently underway. The goals of this project is to reduce stormwater runoff, energy-efficient lighting, user-friendly environment, encourages local stakeholders to upgrade. This is currently what South Avenue looks like now. This is what it hopes to look like in the near future. They've already begun, and is already a piece of this is already over by the Park City Green on Renaissance. New opportunities. Seaweed manufacturing facility is looking to move here. Electronics recycling, clothing accessories made out of recycled goods, algae growing facilities, propane fueling stations, Green Depot building supplies, and the Bridgeport Ecotechnology Park will preserve existing jobs, create hundreds of new green jobs and scores of green companies, place environmentally impaired properties back on the tax rolls, and redefine Bridgeport as a smart, sustainable community. Thank you. I just want to add one last thing. A couple of years ago, most of the things that we were talking about were just not on the drawing boards and were dreams. Most of the stuff I've talked about is in fact a reality and is going to be creating a lot of opportunities in the future. But one other initiative that's coming up, which is also just an idea, and I'll just state it very briefly and let my colleagues talk about it a little bit more, is the whole east side area. You've got about 750 acres of developable property with Lake Success, the former GE plant, Remington Arms, all the way down to the harbor. And this is a tremendous opportunity for contracting. We've already attracted international attention as it relates to the Eco-Technology Park. We've had folks here from Germany, we've had folks from China, as well as Hong Kong and Japan, looking at what Bridgeport's doing, because Bridgeport has always been on the cutting edge of innovation here, and that will continue in the future. But this also, the East Side corridor, as we talked about with the new high school, represents a significant opportunity for construction and expansion here in the city. So thank you very much.
We'll move on to City of Bridgeport Construction Management Services, Ambassador.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Amber Sally. I'm a program manager with the Construction Management Services, which serves as a division of public facilities. And today I'm going to talk about the capital improvements plans, which offer opportunities for contractors to be involved in the city's bidding process for construction projects and as they apply to capital projects. The Capital Improvement Program offers a variety of opportunities and tasks that are scope-specific to various contractors. They include new construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, bridges, streets, sidewalks, light improvements, parks, buildings, and landscape improvements. The Department of Public Facilities is a department that CMS works very intimately with in executing the construction projects for the capital projects as part of the implementation plan. Various divisions of public facilities which further offer more opportunities would be projects conducted by Parks and Recreation, Engineering, the Harbor Master, Public Facility Maintenance, the Beardsley Zoo, Airport, and our public maintenance for our publicly owned and city-owned buildings. We also work very closely with OPED, or the Office of Planning and Economic Development. The planning department works with development of communities and bringing in business for the city of Bridgeport. We work closely with them as far as the neighborhood revitalization zones, also known as the NRZ, which specifically caters to specific communities and implements plans to improve the areas in the community for the people of Bridgeport. We also work with the anti-blight, which takes care of demolition of anti-blighted homes. Construction Management Services is composed of program managers which help the city implement the construction projects, and we try to keep the integrity of the city's vision and the intent of the projects from the beginning to finish. We'll start with the implementation and the programming and schedule everything out and incorporate any grants or funding that have been allocated to each project and follow through the design process as well as the construction and bring the projects to the closeout phase. Future phased capital projects include Lincoln Boulevard streetscape improvements, Pleasure Beach Park, Knowlton Street, and Steel Point. The city has many master plans in place, specifically for Pleasure Beach and for the Parks Master Plan, both of which are available on the City of Bridgeport website, along with the Harbor Master Plan. It's basically a multi-year phased-out program of the city's intent and vision for improving these areas for bringing everything upgraded and integrated into the city's capital projects. Future capital projects basically would be Parks, Harbor, and Pleasure Beach, as previously mentioned, as part of the master plan. The city's always looking to integrate new contractors to work on our capital projects as far as construction. And the best way as far as going through the process of doing that would be first to sign up for BidSync, which sends you email notifications, and it also gives you the option to pick and choose which specific tasks you would like to be notified for, which are dependent on your scope of work for construction. Basically, when the jobs are advertised, they will be posted to BidSync as well as the CT Post. And the purchasing department will then facilitate when the bids are due and the bid open. There's usually a mandatory site visit walkthrough, which we previously had talked about. And the best way to attend if you're not bidding on your own would be to attend those meetings and see who the prime general contractor is going to be and approach them into supplying a bid. Also, the MBE ordinance is a consideration that all contractors have to meet those requirements as well, and the city has a number of resources that could be utilized within our building as far as MBE and purchasing. Thank you.
And our next one will come from the City of Bridgeport Office of Planning and Economic Development. Oh, she's Central Grants, right? Okay, so that is British.
Say again?
Central Grants.
Yes.
Sorry. So okay, we move to Christina Smith, right, from the City of Bridgeport.
Yes.
Central Grants. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Christina Smith. I'm the new Director of Central Grants. I started about a month ago in the city. I'm just here to briefly explain what the Central Grants Department does. So essentially the department is responsible for securing grant revenue, funding opportunities to fund some of the projects that were previously talked about. So my department is not necessarily in charge of running projects, but we do and are aware of the various projects that are taking place. Some of the funding that we use are for smaller projects, for example, with Healthy Homes, which helps with lead abatement for residents in the city, to bigger projects and applying for funding for, say, Pleasure Beach. Again, with a lot of small businesses here and with Bernd's mentioning earlier that for projects and opportunities under $7,500, it might not necessarily be on BidSync. I think a good way of finding out about some of these opportunities is either through your local councilman, by attending some of the council meetings, and again, establishing relationships with various people in the various city offices, the various departments. Some of the grants that we are currently working on pertain to Sandy-related kind of storm mitigation and rehab. So again, we're applying for a grant with the National Fish and Wildlife, which is actually to help with restoration of Pleasure Beach, and other projects such as the seawall down at Seaside Park, so again, just making our coast more resilient. But again, all of these projects will involve often subcontracting out some of portions of these projects to various businesses in the area. So again, looking on BidSync and keeping in contact with city departments would be the best way to find out about what's happening. Most of the grants that we do apply for are from the federal and state governments, and they are funneled to the city, but again, we will then often use that money to subcontract out from the various departments to other areas. You guys are free to contact me because I will often know about the projects that are going on, and perhaps I can help you and or direct you to the appropriate person. But basically, that's the Central Grants Office, and for any questions, we'll leave it to the end of the panel. Thank you.
It's nice to see that the days and the folks involved are getting younger. I think I've been around Pittsburgh long enough to become a transitional figure, which I'm glad to see. And that speaks to the energy of the economy and of the opportunities that are here. And I had a chance to walk briefly around the room prior. My favorite table was this one because it had this glow of light basking around them. So I wanted just to get a general sense of what folks were involved in. My name is Bill Coleman, and I'm with the city's Office of Economic Development. Work for the mayor. To me, I just want to sound a couple of themes, and then I'm going to concentrate on the downtown projects, but you've heard a lot of projects, and I think you were, as I was, impressed with Jeff's presentation, just about the diversity of the economy and the intelligence of the economy as it's changing here in Bridgeport, which is a good sign. But that means nothing if it isn't for entrepreneurs. My high school friends, you'll remember that word comes from entreprendre, which means to undertake, to try to get it done. And the energy of entrepreneurs is really what drives any city's economy. Before I worked for the city and became a downright bureaucrat, I used to work for a business assistance organization, so I was much more in touch on a daily basis with the energy of entrepreneurs, which is a great way to keep yourself sustained and keep working. So in my brief tour here, I found folks who are doing some high-tech stuff, spectating my fellow over there. This is a product I learned about. There's folks doing intranet service. I've seen some folks who've been here a while and transitioned from Ma Bell to Steve Jobs. So they're working with the technology. There's a lot. Can you just raise your hands if you are involved in contracting or construction? I tend to focus on real estate, so that's a key concentration here. And then you have folks in the green industries, and you see that's very much a community economy. So we have the right people in the room, for sure. And it's also interesting to see that there's folks from a pretty spread geography, which is encouraging for us. You know that we're attracting people. New Britain, Hartford. Make a slight joke. Where's my friend from Brookfield? Is he still here? I guess the politics in Brookfield's get too rough, so you got to go down to the relatively stable and calm politics of Bridgeport. So it's good that we're having that kind of reach. The other thing I wanted to mention is I made a mistake this morning, is why I don't have this PowerPoint when I needed to get closer, because I needed some prop. And what happened this morning, I try to make a metaphor out of it, if you allow me, just a moment of personal levity, is I changed my routine. I decided I was going to go to the gym before work. And I got my clothes in the car, at least I thought I had. But it turned out I forgot my belt, and I forgot my shoes. So I got into the office, and the lady said, no, you got to go to the mall. It's at 10:30, we can go to the mall. And I said, no, because this is about entrepreneurial undertakings. You have to be sound. You have to live within your means. I can't afford to go to the mall. So I got to work. I got to make it work. So I thought maybe I could make some metaphors out of it. You want me to be prepared as you're taking your entrepreneurial lifestyle. Be prepared. Don't change up your routine. Timing is important. Just don't go off the cuff. Also, if it goes wrong, be flexible. I just need to clip. So I figured this crowd would understand something about entrepreneurial ups and downs. So I share that with you. That's my pride. Part of this session here is about relationships. That's another theme I wanted to touch upon. We use the cliche transparency. Cliches last because they have some meaning, but they're also limited. They become a little HACB, a little overused. Even if the window's transparent, if I can abuse the metaphor, if you don't know where the window is, it's not going to help you that much. And if the window's already a display window, like a Macy's, and it's already done and said, well, that's not going to help you much either. So it's about relationships and getting in early. Jeff mentioned the Bridgeport Fuel Cell Park, which is a great project, $65 million. But I use it as an example because I had some knowledge of it, that it was not the most transparent of projects. It's a very particular industry, very cloak and dagger, a lot of money involved. The folks who build the fuel cells are based here in Connecticut. Their offices are in Danbury, their manufacturers in Torrington, employ a few hundred people. Still a subsidized market, the government incentivizes it. It's a cool industry for Connecticut. We lead in that industry. But the coming together of the project on the State Street in Bridgeport, right? We want to land it here in Bridgeport, was pretty cloak and dagger. I can remember the manufacturers were looking for someone to buy the project, and it happened to be the investors. And one day we went out to the site, and there were, I counted, 14 suits, and they all had their shoes and their belts, all shining. And they had come in at Sikorsky on a jet, commercial private jet, and they came in a limo. This is the west side of Bridgeport, which is a pretty down-to-earth place, so they made a bit of a splash. And each of them came out in the summer, and they had sunglasses. So they weren't about transparency. And in fact, we couldn't even ask them their names because they were publicly traded and they didn't want the word getting out. So we had to just talk to them for 45 minutes. If you don't say somebody's name in 45 minutes, it starts to strain you, you know, we have to do this with them. And, but I spied them out a little bit because I share with their language, I Western High School French, but I was listening for their accents. And I knew they weren't New Englanders. And they had a little bit of South and Mason Dixon, but it wasn't deep South. So I spied them out at around Virginia. And then I went on the web and I found out, or at least I had my guess, that they were Dominion before we could even announce it. Now, I just share that with you as a way to show there was a big project with a lot of money, held pretty closely. Probably had to be given the nature of that industry. But you all are here to establish relationships. Our office in economic development, we tend to work mostly with developers. In my particular bailiwick is real estate development, so tend to work with real estate developers. There's another colleague of mine, Max Perez, he tends to do business outreach. So he's got a little bit much more versatile, I should say, contact with the entrepreneurial community. And then I have another colleague who tends to deal with transportation and heavy infrastructure projects, puts him more in touch with that construction industry. So we don't let contracts directly, but we're not a bad point of contact to get a sense for what's going on. The city also has a website where they, nowhere near the frequency we should, but they're trying to ramp it back up. They make available publicly owned properties. They tend to be infill properties in the neighborhoods. If you're one of those folks who can flip that house, you want to flip on that computer and see how frequently the city's going to be auctioning off those properties. And you can sometimes get into decent real estate for that. So feel free to stay in touch with us. I did have some cards. I have some cards that I'll pass them out. Steve McKenzie here? I know Steve's a perfect example in terms of just trying to build relationships and being accessible. I think he planted a chip in me because he knows what, even when I'm hiding and getting done, finds me. So City Hall is a fairly open place. They're cracking down a little bit how it's wearing badges for reasons we understand. But it's still a small town city. You know, you have the mayor here, he's very accessible, we're very lucky to work for him. He has that great energy and sincere about the green economy. We're here for the green in that green economy. But just making yourself known, just feel welcome. It is supposed to be the people's house, so don't stand up for now. Come on now. How's that for some themes? Opening comments. All right? Okay. I want to just mention some of the projects downtown, and then I'll yield the floor to Ted Gary Ross. So downtown, some folks say it's the face of your city. If you don't know a city, maybe that's the first place you go to get a sense for it, feel for it. It's also the connecting tissue of the city, because you live west side, east side, all around the town. That's the node that binds us all together. Downtown, if you've been there the past few years, it's looking better. In the southern part of downtown, around McBeady Green, its historic center, it's still looking downright shabby in the northern section of downtown. In the central core, which some people call the teardrop, which is a very unfortunate nickname, so we've got to get a better one. Open suggestions on that. But the good news about the downtown is we now have projects going. And I think we're taking a smart approach there, because we haven't just locked up the land with one developer. One big developer who's going to build the next Gotham City and hold on to land forever and ever. Rather, we have 5 different developers, 5 different blocks, actually physically contiguous one to the other. And it's mostly renovating historic structures. The good thing about Bridgeport's woe-begone days is that while other economies were churning and we weren't, sadly, that meant in part we didn't lose our buildings. They didn't all get bulldozed down. They sat there, looked terrible, but at least they're still there. And now they're of great value because they can get historic tax credits and they can bring development interest to bear. We have good developers. Spinnaker out of Norwalk, Poco out of Norwalk, Urban Green out of the Bronx, New York City. We have an owner-occupant for a financial services office tower. I did say that. Financial services, not Stanford, Bridgeport. Believe it or not, interested in an owner-occupant here. Why? Because our real estate values are now, they're just that much more of a bargain for folks. And the infrastructure is now where it needs to be. They see enough progress that they don't feel like the pioneers have come in. We also have a cool little project going on downtown with some local folks. If anybody knows the east side, Barnum Avenue, there's a place called Colorblends. These folks import tulips. And they do it worldwide, and they spend a lot of time in Holland and bring them here and then send them and distribute them around the country. They want to build the first tulip museum in the United States. They built one in Amsterdam. It's kind of quite the tourist attraction. We're going to bring it downtown. So to add to the cultural mix of the city. So those 5 projects, Jason Newfield, some of you may know these old buildings, the Katie's department store. What will be the Tulip Museum? I think there was Corbett Studio, is where that is. The Davidson Boys and Girls Club downtown. All those vacant buildings have been rehabbed by 5 different developers. A big partner there is the Housing Authority. We talk about relationships. I know you guys, Jimmy and Sharon, I know that you meet with David Corus, our director, and Alana Taylor, the city. Every week, I believe it is. So that kind of relationships, like Steve McKenzie and I, every week that's his team. So that helps. They're helping us financially with some of these projects, and we're certainly supportive of doing them. So downtown, you should see over the next 1.5 to 2 years, as these developers get moving, a transformation into the residential up, retail up. Preservation box about 37 units, Dixon Newfield's about 90, Securities is 77, Davidson's another 200, so we're looking at about 400 units. We have to move because the market is getting better. Stanford's putting up units like crazy, Haven's putting up units. So we got to hit that moment, not miss this market. And with their help, we can bang these projects out, get it done. So that's what's going on. Helpful? Good. Then I'm going to pass the baton to Mr. Ted Graybars. In addition to serving our country in the military, serves the city very, very well. Host of interesting endeavors. Mr. T.
All the things that you heard today, and again, as everyone has said, thank you so much for being here. You know, you're really in so many ways for Bridgeport, the rock that is the basis for what we are and what we will become. So thank you all for being available and working with us to build a greater city for ourselves, for future generations, and certainly for our Mayor Finch. What I'd like to do probably is, and as was said earlier, I'm Ted Graybars, I'm the Director of Sustainability, I'm the Deputy Director of Public Facilities, so I'm pretty much the guy, fortunately or unfortunately, that's in charge of getting the things from the city side completed in construction. And what I'd like to do, next slide, is just kind of trying to walk you through, provide a little bit more granularity on some of the projects that were mentioned. So Jeff certainly had mentioned the green energy park that is going to be down on top of the landfill, where we're going to be putting in 2 to 3, probably 3.5 megawatts of solar. That's a project that right now is being developed by United Illuminating, our local utility, and they are going to be finalizing their budget and potentially starting construction on that, and so looking for contractors probably within the next 5 months, I would say. And I'm going to leave a bunch of cards here before I leave, so feel free to take one. You can certainly stay in touch with me on that. But again, that is an opportunity that I think is going to present itself to a lot of contracting folks, everything from site work through electrical work. That's going to have both solar on there as well as a separate fuel cell on the site. And as Jeff alluded to, that's going to be put out into the rate base, so it's going to be benefiting everyone within UI's territory, and indeed is going to be a tremendous resource and a really tremendous boon for the city of Bridgeport from the perspective of really showcasing renewable energy as something that has finally arrived in this state and throughout the country, and through a lot of the energy legislation brought about by the governor has really made it allowable to pencil out in so many ways. And I can speak more than anecdotally, for instance, in terms of the prices of solar energy have come down probably to a third of what they were just 3 years ago. So again, tremendous opportunities in this area, in this field. Other things that I'd speak to is, Jeff also mentioned, for instance, the biodigesters. Certainly we're doing one with food waste. We're also doing one with sewage sludge, some pretty nasty stuff, but that's going to be developed on our West Side Sewage Treatment Plant facility. We've just signed contracts with a developer for that within the last 2 weeks, and they've got 8 months to finalize all their permitting for that, and so that should be under construction within calendar 14 as well. Some other things that were discussed: so-called gray water pipeline with RESCO. Again, that's something that we're working closely with RESCO and our WPCA, because I'm also, fortunately or unfortunately, chairman of the board of our WPCA here in Bridgeport as well. And that, again, is a project that will, again, as Jeff had alluded to, save a tremendous amount of energy and potable water, offer us an opportunity to partner with developers as well as the city, which has been a major effort between us and our BRBC. Other things going on, we're doing a tremendous amount of solar work, solar energy work throughout the city with a couple of organizations, Solar City, Main Street Power, folks like that. If you look off up to the lower right here, you see Pleasure Beach, which for anyone that's from Bridgeport probably remembers Pleasure Beach as being a great showcase for entertainment and all, probably 30 or 40 years ago now almost. Bridge burned down 20 years or so ago. As was mentioned, we're in the process right now of redeveloping in that. We're just completing phase 1. And actually, why don't we turn to that Pleasure Beach slide? Because as Amber had mentioned a little bit, we're just completing phase 1. We're going to be designing phase 2 and subsequent phases. It's really taken a number of years to get all the permitting in place for that. Over the last almost 4 years, we've been working this, combining a lot of federal, state, and local monies to do this. Ultimately, we're probably going to be spending a total of about $12 million upgrading this island for both conservation effort, but more importantly, to benefit a lot of the folks in the city of Bridgeport in terms of park space. You know, particularly the east side, east end, there's a very minimal amount of park space available, parkland, and so we're hoping this is going to provide a tremendous benefit for those folks, as well as potentially ecotourism aspects for all the endangered species and all over there, and give folks an opportunity to really see an area that is, if you travel throughout the United States and frankly the world, I don't think you're going to find a more beautiful location than Pleasure Beach in many, many ways. So we're going to be doing everything there from waterside construction work, additional pier work, to site work, building construction going on there. So again, you know, the phase 2 portion of that is probably going to be starting. We're going to be starting design in the next 3 or 4 months, and hopefully can at least beginning construction for phase 2 in calendar 14 as well. So I would say construction-wise, by spring, summer, or summer, fall of next year, we're going to have a lot of opportunities again for construction on that. Another area that I think really hasn't been mentioned, but I think, again, from some areas that I'm personally working on, if you turn to the green infrastructure page view. So one of the issues in Bridgeport, like many urban areas throughout the country, are that we have a sewage system that is largely not separated. So you've got sanitary sewer, essentially stuff coming from your toilet, and from the storm sewers, essentially rainwater combining and going into the same locations through the wastewater treatment plant. And so one of the things that you have is a tremendous cost of completing that infrastructure upgrade, separating all that out. And we've estimated that it's going to cost us probably about $250 to $300 million to complete that effort. Well, it's not likely we're going to find that kind of money in Bridgeport or the state of Connecticut or this country for a number of years to come. So one of the ways that we've been working at dealing with that, if you turn to the downtown green infrastructure page, one of the ways we've been dealing with that is to develop a lot of green infrastructure initiatives, and that's essentially taking rainwater and storing it through esplanades and areas throughout the city so that it doesn't need to be processed through our wastewater treatment facility. The opportunities here are really significant. This prices out on a square foot basis about the same as engineered structure for this, but it gives opportunities to tremendous opportunities to smaller contractors to develop these areas, provide certainly reductions in carbon footprint, improve the quality of life in the city in terms of additional trees and vegetation, which I'm sure the mayor may have mentioned to you as one of his favorite topics, and provide opportunities again for small contractors, largely in the site work areas that I think is an area that we're going to see more and more increase in need for probably in the next 5 years for this. So I would say this is probably one of our biggest areas of growth and construction in the city over the next 5 to 10 years. And we're going to be having probably some of this. We are working with Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to get clean water funding, that's federal funding, which historically only supports engineered gray infrastructure to help develop this downtown green infrastructure. And we've got a couple of pilot projects that we've drafted. We've gotten legislation written around from the state, approved last legislative session. And so we're expecting that this work will begin certainly in the pilot phases this spring, summer probably. So again, we'll have some good contracting effort available for that. Other than that, again, we touched briefly on, if you go to Knowlton Park, so Knowlton Park, if you know, over on east side, east end of Bridgeport, and this is really, I think, symptomatic of a number of projects we're trying to develop. We're taking areas that were so-called brownfields, and if you look at the numbers, around 15 to 20% of the city of Bridgeport is considered to be a brownfield, city 16 square miles. If you look at the dollars, if you assume that it costs $1 million an acre to remediate, that you're talking some pretty serious money when you add all that up. So one of the things the city is trying to do through a whole waterfront recapture effort that Bill Coleman is heavily involved in is taking back a lot of the properties along the waterfront that are involved in tax liens or brownfields or whatever. And through both city funding and working with initiatives from private developers, taking back a lot of this land to be able to be used for several things. First off, parks, and we're the park city, so obviously that's very, very important to provide people opportunities for park space. Also, a big issue in coastal areas that I haven't touched on, at least when I was here, is coastal resiliency, or being able to provide opportunities for stormwater to be stored in major storms so we don't end up destroying major building structures like you saw in Sandy. And we were very lucky to get away without really dodging the bullet on that, but you go down to areas like Staten Island and the Jersey Shore and all, heavily damaged because of that. So we're using this as an opportunity to take a lot of these areas that are brownfields and convert them back over to park area. Knowlton Park, if you know it, is one of those areas that we're currently in construction on phase 2 that Amber had mentioned, and we've got some subsequent phases where we'll be partnering with private landowners to provide people access back to the waterfront around that. So based upon that, I think that kind of gives you a flavor of some major initiatives we'll be dealing with over the next couple of years. So subject to your questions and or comments, that concludes my presentation. Thank you all very, very much.
There's a training for some of the new industries that the city's encouraging. I believe the State Department of Labor is pretty fundamentally involved in that. I'm putting you on the spot. But I'll jump in too.
The Department of Labor is interested in assisting with apprenticeship programs and working with the city to accomplish that. So we are available for that, but it's being able to talk to you businesses to encourage you to take on apprentices, even though we're talking about exploring these different projects. So yes, I am and we are available in terms of assisting with getting folks jobs and especially through the apprenticeship program.
I would also add to that here in town, the Workforce Inc. is a workforce board, and it's probably one of the best in the country. They have a 99 program, people that have been on unemployment for 99 weeks, but they have had workforce training in the environmental area for how to weatherize your house, for instance, lead and asbestos abatement. So they've had these programs ongoing for the past at least 3 or 5 years that I'm aware of. But the Workforce Inc., they're at 350 Fairfield Avenue here in downtown Bridgeport. And like I say, they're one of the better workforce development boards in the country. And I would they're also a part of Career Resources, and the Department of Labor is also there. But first-class organization, I would urge you to go on their website or even go down, because they continuously offer those types of training programs. The Workforce Inc., yeah, INC.
I would know too, I met at least 2 folks who are in the green industries here, but are also interested in training and providing intellectual capital. There you go.
Represent Premier Mac Academy, which is a school that we're in the process of building now. We're almost done with it. We should be open in 2014 April, and we will be providing training programs there. I'm Tashira Jackson from Bridgeport, Connecticut, and our school is located on 247 Madison Terrace in Bridgeport. and we'll have training. That's going to be a site for training programs. We're going to be fully accredited as well. Okay. The name of the school is Premier Construction Academy. Premier Academy. Okay.
Hi, I'm Adrian Well from the region. We've been doing construction training since 2008 and have fielded many teams, both for our own construction and with a lot of the folks who are here who've hired our graduates. Most of that has been financed through the State Department of Labor. We just completed training for more than 53 people in deconstruction and in asbestos and lead, OSHA 30, and HACB training. So we've been on the field for a long time doing this kind of work. And most of you, if you don't know us, I'll give you my card. And some of you in the room have been through our training. So I think we're in the process in Bridgeport of answering the need for preparing folks who want to work with you as you expand.
Electric cars, plug-in station, where they can plug in their electric cars. Nobody talked about that.
We've got 2 electric charging stations right now. Both are up at City Hall at Lion Terrace.
Yeah.
One of the problems we've had with that is we got 2 free units from UI, and we're trying to figure out if we can get some further grant funding to support getting some more. So we're glad to have Christina Smith here. I think one of the problems that we've had in general with electric cars is that for the number that are currently available or people are buying in this area right now, it doesn't support the infrastructure. And absolutely, I mean, you could also make the argument that you build a better mousetrap and they will come. What we're trying to focus on right now are a lot of other solar type projects, and we're expecting to start to move more towards getting more charging stations, probably in about the next 2 years or so, particularly around mass transit hubs like the train station, areas like that that can support particularly folks from out of town using them and things like that. But we do have a couple, and we're trying to get some more is the bottom line. Question.
All right, thank you. So now that concludes the second panel. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all very much.
I hope you can enjoy your food while I do this very quickly. I guess the question is, when we put this together this morning, we had thought about why are we doing this, and I think the reasons are twofold. One is that we have 2,500 families, and I think Sharon and I figured out that over 2,300 of them do not have jobs. And some of them are elderly, some are disabled, but if you weed those out, we have over 1,000 individuals that are not on public assistance and do not have jobs. So one of our goals will be to help put those individuals to work so they're gainfully employed. At the same time we're doing that, we can help provide each of you in this room here with contracting opportunities. Over the next 5 to 7 years, we are going to spend over $300 million in construction. That's $105 million in wages. That's over 2,000 jobs. So we're going to do our part to help put Bridgeport back to work. First thing we're going to talk about here is we're going to skip that. Skip that. Skip that. Who's doing that anyway? Who's in charge of production? Over there? Oh, Portia. Okay, skip that. Skip that. Whoa. Go back up. Right, stop right here. Okay. All right. I think that's it. In August, the Board of Commissioners passed a MBE, WBE program. Ezekiel was here this morning and talked about the city's MBE, WBE program. Our program is exactly the same as theirs. We adopted the city's program for minority and women. We added to it Section 3. Currently, if you want to do work with Bridgeport, 30% of your work has to go to either women and or minority-owned businesses. And I'll underline what Ezekiel said this morning. It is certified MBEs and WBEs. We take certification from anyone except probably your kid or someone, but we'll take certification from Dr. Fred. We take from DAS. We'll take from any bona fide institution, SBA, but you will need to show us that your firm is a bona fide firm. 51% of it has to be owned, and the key word is controlled. We get businesses that are owned by MBEs, but they're not controlled by MBEs, and we don't consider those to be MBEs. So you need to be controlled by an MBE. MBE needs to be in charge. You need to know where the bank account is held and where the money is held. We do not want any sham MBEs and WBEs. We have the executive orders from the feds, 11246, and the MBWBE. There are also preference points, that portion of the preference points. We adopted something that we have, they have. I can't figure it's we or they anymore. We have, they have. New Haven, is they or we? I think it's they now. Have a, they now, okay. They have a program that adds preference points. This goal is that those who've done business in New Haven know how this works. MBEs and WBEs and Section 3s that are say you're not the lowest bidder, but if a bid is $100,000 and you're within 10% of that bid and you're qualified, you will be awarded that bid, even though you're not the lowest bid. You have to be qualified and responsive, but you do not need to be the lowest. If a bid is between $100,000 and $200,000, and you're within 9% of that bid amount, $60,000, you will be awarded that bid. And you can see the table there. The sheets are out in the back. This goes for sealed bids and sealed bids only. Anything in the housing authority for construction that's over $100,000 is awarded through sealed bids. Anything under $100,000, we do a small procurement. We get 3 quotes. So this will apply to those contracts as well, sealed bids. I don't see it here, but if it's an RFP for architecture, engineering, consulting services, we also have preference points as well. We have a 100-point scoring system for RFPs, and there's 10 points extra added for MBEs, WBEs, and Section 3s. So in addition to having these preference points for sealed bids, there are also preference points for RFPs and RFQs, and that's 10 additional points if you're a bona fide MBE, Section 3, and WBE. I'm going to focus more on the Section 3 part because Section 3 is something that's pretty much germane to federal funds, and it's something that's quite often misunderstood. The first misconception is that it only applies to construction. Section 3 applies to every single dollar that we spend that has federal funds in it. So we get architects, engineering, consulting firms that say, I didn't know it applied. Yes, Section 3 applies to every dollar. There's no dollar limit. It's not $100,000 or $200,000. It's every single dollar we spend is subject to Section 3. Obviously, the larger your contract, the more pressure we're going to put on you to comply. If you can't comply, you're going to need to give us a % of your contract amount or provide some training opportunity. But you must comply with our Section 3 requirements. The definition of Section 3 is somewhere in here, I think. Portia, let's find it. Okay, Section 3. 51% or more owned or controlled by a Section 3 resident. What is a Section 3 resident? Well, the easiest one is a resident of the housing authority. If 51% of the business is owned by a resident of the housing authority, you'd be both a ROB, resident-owned business, and a Section 3. So Section 3 residents are also low-income persons who live in the Norwalk, Stanford, Bridgeport, MSA. So if you're a low-income person and you live in that metropolitan statistical area, you're also a Section 3 resident. So it's not just resident of public housing, it's any low-income person that lives in this particular region is also a Section 3 resident. The second way to become Section 3 is by your workforce. You can be located anywhere on this planet, but if 30% of your employees are low-income persons, you can qualify as a Section 3. That's a misunderstanding that you need to be located in the region, but that's not accurate. All it requires is that you hire people from the region, and if 30% of your workforce are low-income people from the region, you can be a Section 3. Every now and then, HUD has a youth build program, and if you are working as part of a youth build program, you are a Section 3. And the final way you become a Section 3 is that 25% of your contract that you're awarded is awarded to Section 3s. So those are 4 ways that you can become a Section 3. And the preference when we award contracts to Section 3 firms, assuming everything being equal, would be in that order. Category 1 business, a Category 2 business, a Category 3 business, and a Category 4 businesses. So there are 4 categories of Section 3 businesses, the same as there are 4 categories of Section 3 residents. Residents who live in the development, residents who live in public housing, residents who live in the area, and residents who work on a youth build. So, and that's the other misunderstanding. There are Section 3 subcontractor requirements, and there are Section 3 employment requirements as well. You have to meet both of those requirements. For the employment requirement, 30% of your new hires, which is people hired within the last 3 years, must be Section 3 residents. Unlike New Haven, which has a pretty substantial process for determining who's a Section 3, in Bridgeport, for now, we will allow you to self-certify that you're a Section 3. In the package, the bid package that go out, there is a Section 3 self-certification form in that package. You can certify that you are a Section 3. Obviously, you are not to do that. It's on the penalty of forgery if you were to not tell the truth, but we do allow you to self-certify. So it's very important that if you think you're a Section 3, that you take a look at the package, that you take a look at the definitions, and if you don't know the answer to that, you can call us. We do have a Section 3 compliance officer, Karen Miller, in the back of the room there. She will help you determine if you are a Section 3. And it's very important because there are, again, preference points, right, for Section 3 businesses. You could be the second low bidder and still get the award. So those are our Section 3 requirements. We're going to be very aggressive in enforcing them. There's no way you're going to get a contract with the Housing Authority of the City of Bridgeport without complying with those requirements. So we just want to make that known. And so Sharon will talk about our contracting opportunities. Sharon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for staying to listen to our presentation. I have to say I was very impressed this morning with what the City of Bridgeport is doing. From what I can see, we are rebuilding Bridgeport. We see ourselves as partners with the City of Bridgeport, and we're here to rebuild Bridgeport's neighborhoods. So let us go through with you some of the things that we've got coming out in the next 6 to 12 months, and we hope that you participate with us, partner with us, and respond to a lot of our invitations for bids and our requests for proposals. As you can see, we have a number of things that are coming out very shortly. We're going to be doing a lot of repair work on our existing development sites. We have repair work for air conditioning systems and heating systems at Trumbull Gardens. We have entry doors that we need to replace at Green Homes. We're doing cameras and lighting at a lot of our sites. We're also issuing an RFP to do security design systems at our sites. We're going to be rehabbing a number of our smaller properties that have been sitting vacant for a number of years, specifically Adams Street, Cassuth Street, Stratford Avenue, and another one that's not up there called Olive Street. You'll see those bids coming out within the next 3 to 4 months. We're in the process of doing a major project at Marina Village, so let me spend a few minutes talking about that. We are in the process of, we just selected a co-developer They're located out of Stamford and Greenwich. The Richmond Group and JFM Group, big-time developers, nationally known. They've partnered with us along with Bridgeport Neighborhood Trust and POCO Partners to help do a major rebuild in the south end. We are going to start with the demolition phase 1 of Marina Village. So we're going to be issuing in the next 3 to 4 months the demolition contract. Part of that is going to have a deconstruction component to it. We currently have out right now, if you go to our website, a deconstruction training service RFP where we're looking to train up to 30 of our residents in how to do deconstruction techniques. So we want to get them OSHA certified. We want them to understand and be certified in lead-based paint and asbestos removal and deconstruction and recycling techniques. And that's all as part of a bigger effort to be able to take down Marina Village and reuse the materials to the greatest extent possible as part of Mayor Finch's green building theme for the city. But the big piece about rebuilding Marina Village is that we're going to be rebuilding it off-site and on-site in 7 different phases. We have before the Planning and Zoning Commission next Monday night our first phase, which is called Broad Street Residence. And Portia, can you flip to this screen where we show that? I think it's up right there. Oh, you just passed it. That's a rendering from our architectural firm, Icon Architecture, out of Boston. And they've been required to hire Section 3 residents to intern and to train under them so that they can get exposed to architecture and engineering. And that's what we're talking about, is giving residents an opportunity to be exposed, to be trained, to be apprenticed, so that they can get fully employed. This is a major project. It's 70 rental units and 8 homeownership units. It's on a vacant block right now in the south end that's used to be public housing. We're going to be rebuilding it, and that's alone about a $33 million project. That's phase 1. All of the phases, there's 7 phases. We're going to be rebuilding up at Father Panic site. That's up near the new elementary school, Waltersville Barnum Elementary School, near Crescent Avenue. There's going to be about 200 to 300 units up there that we're going to rebuild. And then after we take down Marina Village, we're going to put back about another 300 units there. And then we also have a number of scattered sites that we're going to be building probably another 100 units on. All told, we've calculated it's somewhere around $250 million worth of construction work that we're going to be undertaking in the next 5 to 7 years. And this is going to be rolling out in the next 12 months with phase 1. Next slide. So we have a number of things that we're working on, as I just spoke about earlier, in terms of things that you're going to see procurement opportunities. We have a number of small service contracts that we're going to try to do. Some of these, as you can see, are for laundry services, roof inspection and repair, moving and storage, lock services, pest control, snow, trash removal and recycling. These are all things that we do and we issue throughout the year periodically, invitations for bids or RFPs for services. And please check our website for bidding opportunities on a regular basis, because these come out on a monthly basis. Next screen. We're also working on, as we said earlier, on trying to provide administrative and service procurement. So we do legal services we procure, auditing services, payroll, photocopying, quality control, relocation, security guards, in addition to our architectural and engineering service, our construction management services, and property management services. So we are a major employer here in the city of Bridgeport, and please look to us and to partner with us and to consider partnering with us. Next screen. As Jimmy mentioned earlier, there's a number of methods that we procure. Small procurements are any procurements under the $100,000. We won't do that under sealed bid. We'll do that with 3 quotes. Competitive sealed bids is always over $100,000, and that is a sealed bid. competitive proposals. That's our request for proposal process. And then again, contracting, I think I'm going to skip over the section 3 because I think Jimmy went into very good detail on how we do contracting with section 3 and minority firms. I'm going to scroll ahead a little bit, a couple more. Just want to see, I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. So go back to, I want to make sure that you know who to contact. Is Caroline still here? Caroline Sanchez? Caroline, stand up. Caroline does all of our procurement for us. Caroline Sanchez is our contract specialist at the Housing Authority. She shoulders the brunt of all the inquiries that come in and answers all the questions for us and makes sure all our RFPs and bids go out and get received and handles all our proposal conferences. So thank you, Caroline. If you need to contact her, there's her number. Again, we do emails through bids@bridgeporthousing.org. And the last plug that I'd like to make is for our new interim executive director, Jimmy Miller, who's been with us now for about 5 to 6 months. And I just want to say that under his leadership, we are turning around the housing authority. We have plans to make us a high-performing housing authority. Our goal is to make all of our communities desirable communities of choice where people will want to live regardless of your income. And we are excited here to be in Bridgeport because we think along with the city, we have a great partnership and that we're here to rebuild neighborhoods, and with your help, we hope that we can achieve our goals. So thank you so much for coming to this forum, and a big thank you to V for putting this on, Vase Construction, who partnered with us today. Thank you so much, V. Stand up. Thank you. Could not have done this without V. Thank you so much.
When you say Bridgeport Housing Authority, the first image that comes to people's mind is not a very pleasant one. It's a eastbound Marina Village Bridge project. But I can see what's going on, I've heard a lot about what's going on with change. The question I want to ask is, yes, all the structural changes that will take place, like I saw from the president, what are we going to do about the problem, the image itself?
I think your question is what we're going to do about the existing developments like PT and Green and Trumbull.
The image that they have, yes.
I'm not sure they have an image. People live there. Naturally, people live there, and they are law-abiding people. And we just need to cut the grass and paint the buildings. You'll see those changes being made. If you drive by Trumbull, you'll see it as we got rid of that hideous military green paint, put something more softer there. It's not my favorite color blue, but it'll do. If you go inside Trumbull, you'll see the floor being stripped and waxed. If you drive by Green, you'll see doors going in there. Doors have been missing for a while. PT Barnum, same thing. We have a great community facility there. A great community facility at Trumbull. What we need to do is not the buildings. Buildings are just edifices, and that's all they are. What we have to do is we have to empower our residents. We just said 2,000 of them do not have jobs. So if you don't have a job and you don't have any, you don't think you have an opportunity, if you've been in public housing for 3 generations, and I'm 4 years old, I'm not sure what hope I have. So this meeting this morning hopefully will provide those families with opportunities to become gainfully employed. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in public housing. I grew up in a housing that was not very desirable, but I did have a work ethic and opportunity. So we want to provide that same kind of work ethic and same opportunities to our residents that I had. They can get out of poverty. There's nothing wrong with the buildings themselves. The buildings will be better kept, better maintained. There'll be less, things in the elevators. It will provide our residents with an opportunity, and they become more self-sufficient, but also have some self-esteem. hard to have self-esteem when your walls are crumbling, and your ceilings are crumbling, and your grass is not being cut, and the maintenance staff is not very nice to you. So self-esteem will go a long way toward that, and it doesn't take a lot to make a person feel like you care about them. So our job is to improve self-esteem, not give them a job. The buildings themselves are just fine. They're just buildings.
Any other questions?
Yes, how you doing? My name is Roy Wright. But anyway, I would like to know, what do we have to do to be a part of that program? Is there any type of application we have to do?
Can you hear me? I mean, you heard pretty well without the microphone. Yes,
Pretty well done. You have to take advantage of all those programs that were here this morning. Everything over $1,000 that's construction requires a performance bond. Since 9/11, insurance companies have been very tight about providing performance bonds. But this morning here, there are opportunities you need to take advantage of. The city's starting that funding program. Dr. McKinney here is assisting with the funding program. So get your financial books in order. Buy a big book or quickly or something so you can keep your financial records, because you're not going to get funding without being able to show your assets and liabilities. So be prepared. We had a conversation this morning about, I think from the city, you guys said they came in and they didn't have a belt and you didn't have any sneakers. And I said, redundancy. I keep sneakers in my car, shoes in my car, shoes in the office, shoes in my gym bag, just be prepared. There are opportunities here today with general contractors. Meet them, give them your card. If you can't be a prime contractor, then be a sub. If you're not ready to be a sub, then I always say work on development. But everyone here this morning is here available to you. Be prepared. Look at the websites. We are going to have a revolving loan program that the board approved in August. $1,000 revolving loan program, $10,000 maximum. So that will provide you with the capital if you can't get capital from a private bank. Most small firms can. So be prepared. Take advantage of all the programs we have here. The revolving loan programs, the city programs, the Greater New England Minorities, Fires, Development Council. That's a long name. And be prepared. And if you have problems or questions, call Caroline. She can tell you where the bids are available. But there are bids online every single solitary day. I think there's about 4 or 5 out at this very moment. Be prepared. Seek assistance with your funding. Insurance is also an issue. You're going to need general liability insurance. $1 million per occurrence, $2 million in aggregate. That's not free. So sometimes people think about the performance bonding. You're going to need that. How do you get that? You need to get the financial books in order. Insurance company going to want to see statements as well. So insurance, workers' comp insurance, you have to get that. Auto insurance, you have to get that. You cannot work on any of that job without that insurance. All those things cost money before you make that. So that's why we're starting the revolving loan program. You're going to need $10,000, $12,000, $50,000 just to get your hands on the insurance. I don't have $50,000 in my pocket. I can't get it tomorrow. But you need to figure it out. You need to figure out how to get the money to buy the insurance. Bid bond. You have to get a bid bond. Anything over $1,000 about the bid bond. That's not free either. So all those things cost money. Luckily, we are making those monies available to you through all these programs now. Go find out what those programs are so you can get your insurance, get your bid bond, get your performance bond, so you're ready to build these developments.
Thank you, Dean. I'm Tom McMillan. I'm the director of the Minority Business Association and the Center for Joint Ventures. I want to thank B for inviting me so I can take this information back to some of my members that are not here. There's about 9 attendees here. I want to welcome you. I've not met you before. Looking forward to my members coming in and doing some housing authority work. My most frequent complaint from members over the past years has been that when they bid on housing authority work, it always ends up going to the usual players because they're denied access because it's not unbundled properly to where they can actually do the work. Is that going to change, or is there an easier way for them to attain some of the housing authority work? A lot of people are disillusioned about even bidding on it.
Unbundling work, we try to do everything possible under $100,000. That's the first thing we do. Why do we do that? Because it doesn't require what? A performance bond. We show you a whole long litany of things that with page and page and page. Every one of those things that are on those pages, almost every one of them is under $100,000. So the first thing I would do would be for your members to look at the jobs, $100,000 under. They're out there every day. They don't require a performance bond. And I think what we said this morning to the city, it's an even playing field. I think the playing field's not even though it's lowest responsible bidder. The problem is you can't get access to capital, and you can't get the insurance, and you can't get the funding. And we're trying to help alleviate that by providing the revolving program. The city has the funding program, so I think we're trying to level the playing field by providing you with the capital. But once you get in the door, it is lowest responsible bidder. And we provide you a preference point, so you don't need to be the lowest anymore. Think about that. You just need to be the second lowest. Can't do better than that, right? So second lowest, you're the second lowest. There's no magic trick. There's nothing going on in the back room. In fact, we don't even have a back room.
No more back room.
No more back room. Everything's out in the open. The bids are open. You can bid protest if you didn't get the bid. Can't be any more transparent than that, right?
Second question would be, most of our members are MBEs or WBEs and so forth, and they have taken advantage of the $100,000 bond threshold the city has in place. Does housing authority recognize that?
We've always had $100,000 cap on requiring a bond, a performance bond. That's the federal requirement. We also, what we do when we have large projects, we don't need redundant bonding. If the prime, for example, on Marina Village, what we're going to normally do on a big job, if the prime has the bonding requirement and you're not engaged in some risky undertaking like electrical work, but it's plumbing or something, we will make the prime bond over everyone because we don't need multiple tripping, quadruple bonding. So we figured all these techniques to eliminate all the barriers possible. So if the prime is going to bond a $30 million job, we don't need 13 layers of subs also bonded as well. So we're doing all those things to eliminate these barriers to bid it.
So that means even on the architectural drawings, as far as all that masonry work, if you get a big contractor and he could sub it out to a small contractor like me.
We will, that's correct, because we'll depending on your size of the job he's going to sub out,
right,
and depending on the risk aversion he has, we will insist that he only require the subs to bond the job when he can show us it's absolutely essential, and it's because it's his job. But we don't, on some of these jobs, we don't need, every single sub to be bonded. The prime is bonded. We're not going to go through often anyway. But that's the dialogue we have. But in New Haven, we're successful pretty much on large jobs. We don't let any of the third and fourth tier subs get bonds.
More questions? Okay.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right. Oh, okay. And one more time, please do not forget, leave your cards with the answers on the table. And like we promised you.
Camille. Oh. Hi, everyone. This is Camille. Can you raise your hand?
please make sure you give your note card to Camille.
And if you did not register, do not forget to leave your business card behind so they can send you a copy of this presentation. All right, we are ahead of time. Thank you all very much for coming, and safe drive back home.